Hey everyone, it's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Ikoria set review.
Different set reviews.
Yes.
This is unprecedented time we're living in currently. For that reason and that reason alone.
It's the only thing going on right now. Wizards dropped the Commander set and Ikoria at the same time.
Yeah, wild stuff. And here we are, about to talk about all the Commander relevant cards, all the stuff we're excited about, all the legendaries, all that kind of stuff. Anything you want to say before we get going?
Now, this is a good, these are always a little long, so let's just get right to it. Let's just get right to thanking you for listening. Let's get right to thanking everybody who joined Patreon at patreon.com/commandersbrew, who support us financially. It allows us to keep making these shows, make more of these shows, keep doing what we're doing. It's so valuable, and we cannot thank you enough. We're going to every time we take to the cameras. We also want to remind you that you can use the TCGplayer link in any of our show notes. That will go, if you go through our link to the store, doesn't matter what you buy, we get a little cut of that. And if you are a Canadian listener, we have an extra special code for you to get a actual discount, cheaper Magic cards at the Wizard Tower. Let's hear an ad from them now.
We're proud Canadian podcasters, and we're proud to be sponsored by the Wizards Tower, wizardtower.com, one of Canada's premier card stores. Canadian listeners get an exclusive coupon code, Brew Beyond Death, to get 5% off any order of singles shipped to you for free as long as you've ordered $15 or more in singles. And you can check out our deck list for this week's episode and other episodes we've done on their content site, mtgcanada.com. See you there, Rose.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching here on YouTube. It's the Commander's Brew. It is the big Ikoria set review. We just want to say thanks so much for checking us out. If you want to help, you can always go down and smash that subscribe button, leave a little comment, let us know what some of your favorite cards are coming out from this set for your Commander decks. Also, if you want to get more hands-on with your help, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/commandersbrew. And by that, I mean when you become a patron and get to the level where you're on the Discord, you can actually help us make the decks that we make on the show regularly. So check that out, patreon.com/commandersbrew. A bunch of other perks over there as well, so check it out. But without further ado, we're going to get to the Ikoria set review. It's a long one, so strap in. Okay, well, Ikoria is here. It is. We've been hearing a lot about this for a long time. We're finally arrived on the plane of Ikoria, the plane of numerous monsters. What does this have in store for us when it comes to just mechanics? What's this introducing to Commander?
Sure. We've got a new thing called Mutate, which is an alternate casting cost. Any alternate casting cost is still subjected to commander tax if you're using a legendary that has mutate. Mm-hmm. So you're going to pay the mutate cost, and you're going to mutate it onto a non-human creature, and then you get to combine them into one amalgamation, one mutated, just disgusting blob of a card. Because both cards are one card now, and you just choose which one goes on top. That's the face of the thing. That's the power toughness, the casting cost, the creature type, all that stuff. The thing on the bottom, everything else, you could mutate more than once with other cards, is just all those abilities just keep stacking up. You're just loading up abilities on abilities on abilities, or you're just throwing a bunch of stats on abilities. That's what Mutate is.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on this in our Commander set review last week, the C20 review. But Mutate is, I think a parasitic mechanic is the right way to describe it, in that you need a lot of Mutate to kind of work with a lot of Mutate, because you want to have the creatures that can mutate onto each other that then benefit when things mutate, and so on and so forth. It's not strictly, like, we don't, you can include some Mutate creatures in your decks, especially if you're running a lot of non-humans, obviously. that can have good benefits, right? So it's not strictly, mind you. So there are some exceptions, and I think like for the most part we don't talk about so many of them, especially at like common and uncommon, but some of the rares can get there kind of for Commander, and we'll see when we get there.
Yeah, they'll have to have some sort of good ability that says when it mutates,
Yeah.
something cool happens. But for the most part, they end up being vanilla if you're not doing that, and they're hard to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
What else is the set given us?
We also have Companion, controversial mechanic. Companion is going to be the ones. There's like just 10 of them, I believe.
One for every guild.
One for every guild, exactly. These are hybrid, maned creatures, legendary creatures that say that say you can cast them from your sideboard. Essentially, from outside the game.
They
don't say that specifically. I think they say you can cast them from outside the game, but they exist there, and like they don't count towards your deck size, and they have a very specific deck building like restriction if you're going to run them this way. You can run them as normal cards in your normal decks, but if you want them to be in this sort of outside realm where you can just cast them like at any point and not count towards your deck size, you have to meet these deck building criteria. So we'll get to these. We're going to read all 10 of them. They're all pretty relevant. They're all pretty good. One is already banned in Commander because you'll see when we get there, and you probably already know about it if you're listening to this show, that's for sure. So, but it's a big controversy. The only thing you need to know is that it's kind of like a second little Commander, kind of. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, Companion is a little bit. I guess Commander, you assume that's the boss of the deck. That person or creature is in charge. But the Companion, that's just a buddy of the deck. That's not in charge of the deck. It just likes to help.
It's a mini boss.
Yeah, mini boss. They've also given us a bunch of Evergreen counters. It's just a little bit of a design shift. We're not getting new Evergreen abilities, but we're getting the ability to put trample counters and menace counters and first strike. Is there first strike counters?
Yeah. There's first strike counters. There's even in the Commander set, there's even like a double strike counter. There's a couple other ones. I don't think those appear in the actual. I don't think double strike is in the Ikoria set, but I could be mistaken, but I don't think it is. So there's a lot of them. There's basically just about every Evergreen ability you can think of that is still currently being used in Magic, kind of shows up in that way. So it's
right. You have to be careful how you're going to mark those.
That's my main concern. My main concern is the physical marking of them. And like in Ikoria packs, you're going to get these little like punch out little cardboard things, which are obviously going to be useful for the decks that want to use these counters. But like when you are just playing a random game of Commander and you have like one or two of these creatures pop up that are just going to place them, it's like, and you don't like, that's not what your deck does. So like how it's going to be interesting to remember what counter is what. I mean, I guess there's already a lot of that going on in Commander, so maybe we're overthinking it. But anyways, and we also have one major returning mechanic, and that's cycling. Cycling, all-time great mechanic. We love it for limited, for constructed, for Commander, for everything. It just helps bolster any deck that wants to do the things that cycling does, including drawing cards, discarding, activating abilities. Cycling just is a lot of cool stuff. Always helpful. There's full-on a cycling pre-con deck, basically, in addition to the kind of cycling decks that already existed in Commander. So those decks just get a little boost.
It's also interesting, like cycling allows a card to be more situational.
Absolutely.
Like it would be amazing to be able to go back in time and say like, oh, like destroy all islands, but with cycling. So it's like, oh, I'm not playing a blue player. I'll just cycle it away. No problem.
Yeah.
But this brings up an interesting discussion because for the first time ever, we're seeing cycling for just one colorless. So
really, yes.
How do you feel about just running a card that you probably will never cast, where the cycling for one is the main plan, and that the actual card is a distant plan B?
I mean, I think it like in some ways it kind of like, to a very small percentage wise, but it kind of like thins your deck a bit. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's not without a cost.
There is a cost, absolutely, but it is the smallest cost. That is like, you know what I mean? Like one colorless or one generic mana.
Yeah.
That's as low as it can go, essentially. Obviously 0, but I mean, it might be too good,
I don't know, like there's like a little 2/2 for two that cycles for 1 in red. It's like many red decks wouldn't want that card, but like if you're just gonna cycle it for 1, that's not a bad way to just kind of root through things. I don't know. I'm not sure about it. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't run cards that cycle for 2 for no reason, but a card that
Yeah, me
cycles for
neither.
1, I want to think about it.
I don't think I would run it as the like, oh, this will get me through my deck. I still would want some utility from, like, I wouldn't run a two mana 2/2 like generic creature for that has cycling for 1 colorless.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. There's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
I think the cost of putting that card in your deck is like higher than putting something that was actually useful.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's close, probably though, right? It's not
I don't know.
It's not a blowout. Anyways,
It's true.
Let's get into it, though. We talked about this. Let's just roll right into it. We're going to start off by reading the legendary creatures, and this is going to actually be probably the majority of the show. There are a ton of legendary creatures, and there's a lot of multicolored cards, too, that are worth talking about. So, anyways, we're going to talk about the legendaries first, and to start us off here, we actually have 2 monocolored legendaries, which is strange for this set, if you think about it. But the first one here is our mono-red Yidaro, Wandering Monster. 5 red for the legendary creature Dinosaur Turtle, an 8/8 with trample and haste, and it has cycling for 1 and a red. So a 7 mana 8/8 with trample and haste that cycles for 1 and a red. Very low cost of putting this in any deck that like cares about it at all, because you can just cycle this away if you get it early.
Right.
When you cycle Yidaro, shuffle it into your library from your graveyard. If you've cycled a card named Yidaro Wandering Monster 4 or more times this game, put it into the battlefield from your graveyard instead. So
That's interesting.
I'll tell you what I thought right away when I first saw this card. I was alarmed because I was like, you run this as your commander, you can just cycle it 4 times from your command zone, and you just have it. It's like, actually, no, that's not how it works. Cycling, you have to discard it from your hand. Am I right about that? Part of the cycling cost is discarding the card, is it not? I mean, not the cost, but like that's, you know what I mean? Like,
That's a great question.
I don't think you can cycle from the command zone. Now, if I'm wrong about that, then I think that this is wild. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is when it comes to cycling. Are you looking it up? Are you checking?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, check that out. Maybe I wonder if there's any other legendaries that have cycling on them. Maybe where that's come up before. But I
Yes.
seem to remember reading about it that it needs to be from your hand at some point.
It's true. The first rule, 702.28a, says cycling is an activated ability that functions only while the card with cycling is in a player's hand.
There you go. So not quite as busted as I first thought, that's for sure. But I still think a pretty neat card. Anything that's going to care about getting a creature, a big creature like this into play for fairly cheap, or maybe there's some kind of way to, work this ability a little bit. I don't know, but I think it's, like I said, I think it's a pretty low cost of putting this in any kind of deck that cares about an 8/8 trample haste, which is probably a lot of them.
I know this isn't our realm, but I feel like this is going to be a lot more fun in like the brawl environment. Like the chances of finding it again in a 100-card deck is very small.
Very
so
small.
like when you're down to a 60-card deck, maybe you'll find it again. Maybe like find it a couple times. Maybe this is an argument to put in so many 1-mana cyclers so that you just get through your deck even faster.
Even more so, it's like better in regular constructed, like standard or something, where you can include 4 of these guys in your deck, and then you're just you're drawing them like crazy, and every time someone manages to deal with them, you just cycle it and put it into play.
It doesn't seem like our format's best tool.
No, it doesn't. I agree.
We've
but
got another
interesting card.
monocolored commander in green, though. This is the King Kong parallel, obviously, but they didn't get the King Kong name.
Oh, so yeah, so this is 2 things. So the guy you're about to read is King Kong, without a doubt. So does that mean, is Yidaro Gamera? Because I know Gamera is not like a strict Godzilla thing, but Gamera is like another big monster. He's a big turtle.
I had no idea. I don't know
these-
anything about
I only know Gamera because we did in high school. The musical we did for the end of our final year was an original musical written by a friend of mine called Godzilla the Musical, and Gamera was a character in it because he liked Gamera.
Cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It also had Super Ultra Mega Man and Mechagodzilla. Anyways, it was really good.
Nice. Well, for you King Kong lovers, this is the parallel here. It's Kogla the Titan Ape, 3 green, legendary creature ape. It's a 7/6, and when Kogla enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. 7/6 that fights for 6, that's probably good. You're going to take out something good. Whenever Kogla attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. That's big game. There's lots of artifacts and enchantments going on in Commander. So first of all, you can remove a possible blocker one turn and then probably clear the way for the next turn. But if that wasn't good enough, 1 and a green, return target human you control to its owner's hand. Kogla gains indestructible till end of turn. Green is not great for humans tribal, but there's enough of them. Like there's lots of little humans that are utility kind of things. I'm sure you could have a few. So being able to return 1, now you can attack without worry of anyone destroying Kogla on blocks, and you get to nab an enchantment or an artifact. I think this is an excellent card. I probably wouldn't run it as a commander, but definitely goes in 99s with green.
Yeah, and I think like I mentioned, it's going to come up a lot because humans are kind of one of there's monsters and then there's humans in this set, kind of, and they have some synergistic abilities and some like opposite, like kind of antagonistic abilities. But this is one obviously that's quite synergistic, and I mentioned it on the C20 review. There are way more humans in Magic than we ever give credit for, and way more humans in a game of Commander than we even realize a lot of the times. Like sometimes just look at a full board of creatures and just count how many humans there are, and you're like, gee whiz, there's like, there's like 12 creatures on this board and half of them are humans. So, you don't even really need to fully build hard around it and to include this guy and have him be good, I think.
I agree. That's cool.
Depending on the deck you're running, I think this Kogla is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like what's his name? The Gore Claw makes this too cheaper. You're just killing something, and even if you have to attack to a suicide, you'll probably get a very valuable enchantment or artifact on the way, so it's fine.
This is like, I kind of want to build a mono green deck that's all humans and Kogla. You know what I mean? Like I know that's not the only way that this guy's ever good or anything.
Be some cool green humans.
But man, this just the ability to come in, kill something, and then later attack and destroy an artifact or enchantment, and become indestructible, kind of whenever you want, depending on your deck, I think is really great. Anyways, let's not spend too much time on Kogla. He's very good, but he is one of the mono colors. Let's get to these multicolored ones.
All right.
Next, okay, the first multicolored creature we have is one of the Sultai. Is this part of the? I can't remember if this is part of the. I believe it is. So there's like a cycle where they all cycle through the different wedges, and then they cycle through the different names. So check this out. So Brockos, Apex of Forever. This is our broccoli boy here.
Yeah, he likes to eat the Brockos.
Yeah, the Brockos. 2 black, green, blue. Sultai. Legendary, Nightmare, Beast, Elemental. So the Nightmare is black, the Beast is green, the Elemental is blue. That's how it runs with these guys. He has Mutate for 2 and a hybrid blue-black, and then green-green. So still 5. But, like, I guess if you're heavier on green, you're going to be happy here. I don't know. He has Trample. He's a 6/6, and it says when you may cast Brockos, Apex of Forever, from your graveyard using its Mutate ability.
Now we're talking.
Okay.
That's a Mutate card I'm happy to run in a deck because it's not parasitic.
Exactly. 5 mana, 6/6 Trample. Not
Forever.
bad. Right? Not bad. Not bad on its own. It's fine. Maybe not like exciting in any deck, but the fact that we can mutate this guy from our graveyard onto other stuff that like maybe does care about how big it is, or there's some other ability where like hits and draws cards and things like that. I think you're going to see Brockos come up in decks like that.
Well,
it's pretty
and
sweet.
The way Mutate works is that all counts as one card. So if a piece of a mutated card is your commander, that's your commander. So even if something is up on top, so you're going to play a bunch of little drops, little like small 1-drops to help ramp out Brockos. Brockos will mutate onto one of those old Llanowar elves. Maybe now you're throwing counters on things. So also retains the ability of Llanowar elves, can tap for a green.
It might be helpful.
Might be. I think this is a cool commander card.
I agree. And because also you get that great thing of like, if it dies, you let it die.
Yeah.
Because then you can cast it from your graveyard for the mutate cost, and there's no additional, there's no commander tax there.
No.
Great.
No, it's great. It's great.
Well, you've got me so far, Mutate. You didn't have me too hard in the C20 review, but Brockos is a good one to start out with.
Yeah, so much niacin. Next, we've got a human rogue. It says Cheville. I think I'm going to go Cheville.
Cheville Chase.
The Barber of Cheville. Bane of Monsters, black-green. Legendary human rogue 1/3 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponents control no permanents with bounty counters on them, put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Okay, so he's a hunter. He marks prey. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, you gain 3 life and you draw a card. That's not bad.
Yeah,
Easy value.
I kind of like this better than the bounty commander.
The Mardu one?
What's his name? Is it
can't
Marcel?
remember.
No, that's the wizard. It's something with a C.
Cheville.
No.
Bane of Monsters.
Yes. Anyways, because I like this because it only benefits you. Mathis, thank you. Whereas Mathis players sometimes get like a bit of a target on their backs because if they're out putting counters on stuff, everyone's like, well, let's just kill that guy. Whereas Cheville is like, this only benefits one person. It's not benefiting the rest of the table. So it's interesting politics there, as opposed to like Mathis or whatever. I like it. I like it as a commander a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, creature's gonna die. Sometimes you know you're gonna kill them, but sometimes you don't have to. Like wraths happen, so you're gonna be able to rebuild off of those pretty nicely.
Removal tribal. Let's do it. Right? Let's make that. Okay, cool. Also, I like the low cost on it, right? 2 mana, 1/3. Next is another human, General Kudro. General Kudro, father of Lisa. General Kudro of Dranith, 1 white black, legendary creature, human soldier, 3/3. Other humans you control get +1/+1. Whenever General Kudro or another human enters the battlefield under your control, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard, and then pay 2, sacrifice 2 humans, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater.
Well, I think this sounds more appealing than it is, because I think a lot of tokens
sounds
are not
appealing to you.
Well, it sounds more appealing than it is.
Yeah, it doesn't even really sound very appealing to me, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, but the only reason it might sound appealing, I think, is if you're under the impression that lots of tokens are humans, but it really is not. We kind of touched on this in the Commander preview, but so many soldier tokens are just soldier tokens.
Yeah.
Or warrior tokens. They have no designated, like, creature type. Yeah. Except soldiers. So there's like you don't really get a lot of easy way to make a boatload of humans, unless they're on cards. But I don't want to be sacking 2 cards to destroy 1 card.
Exactly. Like this set is the one where they started. I think where they started making human soldiers. I know there are human soldiers in this set. I think this is
tokens. You mean?
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time they've done it, or if not, it's like very close to it. At any rate, there's not very many things that make human soldier tokens. You're right. I don't think this is that good. I mean, exiling cards is good for sure, but it only happens whenever so whenever this guy or humans enter the battlefield, you can exile target cards. Like that's useless until it isn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, it's good. We like graveyard hate. It's a nice way to have graveyard hate, but to have that be your whole like commander's thing, I don't know. Ask people who play Anafenza, which is way better. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And Theros gave us human soldiers.
There you go. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the sacrifice ability is like I don't know. I'm just not wild. It's just maybe it's just not like flashy enough for us. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
So next we go to the Teamer Wedge, legendary sort of lore-based creature. This is Illuna, Apex of Wishes. 2 green, blue, red, legendary beast, elemental, dinosaurs. The beast, the green, elemental, blue, dinosaur, red, and mutates for 3 hybrid red, green, blue, blue. That's one more than the casting cost. So then that's the mutate. So Illuna has flying and trample and 6/6. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, you get a free
6 mana.
Illuna comes
6 mana, 6/6 with flying and trample and something else. If you can mutate it.
Yeah, you just have to hit a non-human to start it. And I like how you have the option of putting it into your hand or the battlefield if there's some reason you might want it in your hand.
Yeah, maybe some kind of cast trigger or something like that.
Sure. It's up to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to have that choice.
Also, I do like that it's a commander that, yes, we can cast it for 6 for the mutate, but also it's a 5 mana 6/6 flying trample that has this ability.
That's pretty good.
That's great. That's great. Like that's the threshold.
You won't get
right
the
there,
mutate
too, right?
ability if you just cast it as for 5.
Right. But it can be out there, and if you have other mutate things, then that's where the parasiticness comes in, right? That's where it's like, okay, yes, Illuna's great, but now we want more mutate stuff, right? Because now we want it to mutate more. Now I want to be able to. Oh, what if she's out there and I gotta get some more mutates going? And then
this is the problem, to take over your deck. One of those non-land permanents is going to be a boring mutate. But I mean, I guess that's the reason why you would want it in your hand, because then you can mutate it. Yeah. Right? That's more of the standard applications. If you have tons of mutate, Illuna's great for it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like her as a... I mean, I'm just assuming it's a her. I don't know. I like Illuna as a creature, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess I like it as a command. I don't know. Now that I've almost talked myself out of it now. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, how many times am I actually going to get this mutate trigger? Like if I'm not putting in a ton of mutate stuff. Once or twice a game? I don't know. Anyways. Okay. It's I think we're going to find with these guys that's the thing that matters. Hopefully, is that it's going to be like, how much mutate do I have in this deck? Right. And if the answer is like you need to have 10 other mutate creatures, I don't know. I'm not that interested in that, No. Okay, let's see what's next. Another human, Kanan, Bonder Prodigy. Blue, green for legendary human druid, a 2/2. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. So non-land permanent, so like your mana rocks and so on. Elves. Right. And then you can pay 5 green, blue, 7 total. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Those are tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an instant speed ability.
Yeah.
I guess the ramp helps us use that ability. That ability is instant speed. I always hate when you're asked to pay 7 to maybe get a 4-drop. Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. But I suppose it's the choice. You're looking at 5 cards. That's not bad. We're going to be tempted to load our deck full of big, expensive cards. Mm-hmm. But if we've got extra ramp, we should be able to cast them. And Kanan comes out very cheaply. So we should have access to that. So I think all that works together. I think this will be a fine commander.
I think it will be too. I think you're going to see some. This is the kind of commander that I look at and I go, 7 mana. I'm like, well, then I got to stack this thing with 7, 8, 9 drops, to get sort of value from it. That's what goes on in my head. And then I see someone playing a Kanan deck, and they're just making so much mana, and they're activating this ability 3 times a turn, and they're just crushing the board. And I'm just like, I guess that's better than I thought. That's inevitably what happens with these types of commanders for me.
We're in the world now. Theros gave us a creature that taps for triple, where all your stuff taps for triple. That's so right. Things like this are possibilities now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, how good is it just without the 7 mana? Get a creature thing, right?
It's fine.
Like that, exactly, right? Like that's just kind of it's one of those classic things where like this bonus ability that's overcosted doesn't make the creature worse.
No.
Like a 2 mana 2/2 that pumps your mana rocks is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like it.
Me too.
Yeah. All right.
Next up is the Abzan mythical sort of legendary lore-based creature. This is Nethroi, Apex of Death. 2 white, black, green. Cat, Nightmare Beast. The cat is the white part. It starts as a 5/5 for 5 with Death Touch and Lifelink. But we all know that they have mutates, and this one mutates for 7.
7, yeah, a lot.
4 black, black, and then a hybrid green-white. And whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Ooh, that is... So it's Abzan colors. Very easy to fill up the graveyard with black and green. And there are a lot of low power, high impact creature cards in those colors. So we can dump like... You could probably get power 10 or less. You could probably dump out 30 CMC or more very easily by mutating that once. All you need is one non-human creature to mutate on top of. I think Nethroi is fine. This is a fine. I don't need any more mutate for this to be incredible.
I agree. I was going to say fine. Yeah, no, you're right. And I know what you mean. 7 mana is pretty good cost to pay for this, honestly, for this ability.
Very fair.
I can run this as a commander. Probably not. It's probably better than the 99. I think I'd rather have this just pop up when you need it. But maybe it's a fine commander. It's just you have to pay 7, 9, 11 for it. But even doing this once, like if you think about it, if you could include a spell as your commander that's just 7 mana, bring 10 power from your graveyard back to the battlefield, like that's a pretty good spell. Like that would be great. But you also turn whatever it is you have there into at least a 5/5 Death Touch Lifelinker. Like I think I'll do it. This is great. I think I will. Yeah. All right, Nethroi, come in. You got me back. I'm back in on the mutate command.
Yeah.
Like that one a lot. Also, like, it's a cat nightmare beast, but it looks more like, I don't know. What do you think? Like sheep, ram,
a reindeer?
Yeah, very little cat in that cat nightmare beast. Next is Riel, the Everwise, another human. 1 blue red legendary human wizard in 03. Riel gets +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard, and whenever you discard one or more cards for the first time each turn, draw that many cards. So she gets you an extra draw off of like a cycle, for example.
Cycling for 2, yes.
Yeah, so you cycle, you discard, and then you draw 2 cards. And again, but it's any discard. It's not just cycling, obviously.
Right. Cycling
obviously,
is
this
the most
is
obvious.
Yeah, this just because that's I think what she's built to work with in this set. But for Commander, I mean, we're talking the wheel colors here,
Right. So if the wheels say it only works when you discard for the first time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Each turn, but a wheel says discard like your whole hand. So does that count as one batch discard
Whenever
of 6?
Whenever you discard one or more cards for the first time, draw that many cards. So if you have something that's like, discard your hand, that's discard 6, that means you draw 6, right?
I think so.
You're not like discard 1, discard 2, discard 3.
No, that's right.
4.
Yeah, that's one batch of 6. Yeah.
So that seems pretty powerful. That's going to get you through your deck pretty quick in those types of decks too.
Arjune's best right hand.
Oh my God. It's just
lieutenant
nonsense with Arjune.
Yeah.
I think this is just a overkill like in those types of decks, and I don't know. Does this like inspire you to build anything other than like wheels?
No, it's hard because obviously the reason you want the wheels is because you want a graveyard full of instants and sorceries so that Riel can smack for a ton.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe you can ignore that first part and just this is a tough one.
Yeah. Maybe there's something here where it's the instants and sorceries working with discards. Again, not just wheels. Like maybe we include a few wheels, but maybe there's some other fun stuff we can do. I don't know.
That's tough.
It's interesting to look at. It's just like, yeah, is she going to usurp? Like, is this just going to be Niv Mizzet? You know what I mean? Is this just going to be Arjun's deck?
Doubt it.
Right?
Oh,
yeah.
you mean as the 99? Yeah.
Yeah, like is it just the same deck? Like that's kind of boring if so.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she goes in those decks at the very least. Okay. So I mean, good creature, cool creature, no question.
Yeah.
Maybe just not the
Always
most
happy to have
exciting.
more legendaries.
Yeah.
Next up, another lore-based dinosaur cat nightmare. It's the Mardu one. Snapdax. My brain always wants to read spandex when I see that word really fast. Apex of the Hunt. 1 red, white, black. Dinosaur cat nightmare. 3/5 with double strike. Mutates for a total of 5 CMC. 2 white, and then a hybrid Rakdos. So whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature, planeswalker, and opponent controls, and you gain 4 life. I mean, it is like so the potential of double strike means you can have something that's big and bad on the board. Mardu decks probably attack. That's what a lot of Mardu decks want to do. So you can now all of a sudden give it a little bit of a surprise double strike while dealing 4 damage somewhere. I mean, if this is in your command zone, it's not a surprise.
Right.
But it is something to... I mean, it's very good at what it does, but I don't know if that's better than the other options we have.
Yeah. Double strike's obviously quite good, and then hitting something for 4. I mean, that could be enough to get there, I guess. You know, like 5 mana. More of a 99 thing, like in a deck that's trying to do a bunch of double strike stuff. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
This looks more like a cat at least than Nethroi.
Very much so.
Way more. Ultimately, though, not super exciting for Commander, anyways. Next, we have Vadrok, Apex of Thunder. This is the Jeskai one, so it's the elemental dinosaur cat. So blue, and it just costs blue, red, white. It's 3 mana. It mutates for 4, so 1, 2 red, and a hybrid Azorius. It's a 3/3, and it has flying and first strike. And says whenever this creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature card. Yeah, you may cast target non-creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Okay, so it's 3 mana to start, 4 mana to get that ability. So for 4 mana, you're going to get around a 3 CMC like flashback from your graveyard and a 3/3 first strike with flying or maybe even bigger if you have something else. I just don't think it's the impact is fairly small. Feels like it'll be pretty cool and constructed. Feels like it'll be really good and constructed, but Commander, I don't know.
The best case scenario I'm imagining on this is like, what if you mutate it onto something like a young pyromancer, so that while you cast that spell, now you get a little token along with it. I would want to be in some sort of spell slinging deck that has extra benefit from casting spells, which is what Jeskai is very good at doing.
As a commander, it's not awful, right? Like 4
No.
mana to start for a 3/3 first strike that when it essentially enters the battlefield, you'll have to have something to mutate onto, obviously. But every time you do that, you get to flashback something for free. That's cheap, but you know, there's some good 3 mana CMC spells out there.
Yeah.
It's non-creature too, so it could be an enchantment, it could be an artifact.
That's
Like
true.
it doesn't have to be an instance or sorcery. So you know what? This is the kind of card that I'm like underwhelmed when I first see it, and then I'm whelmed. And then I'm whelmed because there's actually more possibilities than you think. It's nothing broken, but you're like, oh, actually, you know what? This is fine. So actually, I'm kind of looking forward to maybe exploring the brew with Vadrok.
Yeah. Okay.
Hashtag explore the brew. Okay.
I love it. Next up, Winota, Joiner of Forces. Boros Commander. This is 2 red, white, legendary human warrior, 4/4. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. That's quite a few.
That's a lot.
You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Thank you for that. Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, like giving it indestructible is like what makes it viable. It sucks when you like slap a creature out that's attacking him. Is like, well, it's just dead, so it doesn't matter. At least it's going to survive combat. But it's asking you to split your deck between human creatures and non-human creatures.
That's annoying, man. That's so annoying. It's like, she's a human. Whenever non-humans attack, I get to get free humans. It's like, well, what am I doing here? You know?
Well, what do we know about? We know that a lot of tokens are not humans. Are there a lot of human cards that make non-human tokens?
Exactly what I was just about to say. The exception here that I thought of right away is, let's find some. I think there are quite a fair amount of humans, especially in these colors, that are going to make some like either soldiers or, cats or something like that, I'm sure. Although I guess probably cats are making cats. But there's definitely a bunch of humans out there that are making spirits and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm interested in that deck.
So here we are taking advantage of the old way that just soldier tokens were not human.
You can do both things. So now correct me if I'm wrong. This is you get this ability per non-human that attacks.
That's right.
So it's not just like you attack with 5 spirits and we get to do this once. If I attack with 5 spirits, I get to do this 5 times.
Yes.
That's great.
I mean, that's card advantage in Boros. Like you could just dump out a ton of creatures.
Yeah, I like this a bunch. I think they're
okay.
Is that the only way to do this deck? Maybe.
I mean, that's the most fun way for sure.
Yeah. What other ways to do it? I don't really know. Maybe there's some non-creatures that make humans. Maybe you just flip it. I don't know. But there's a deck here, and I think it's kind of good.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, agreed. Next, we have... So is this like... Hang on.
It's the only art I could find.
Yeah, it's the only art I could find too. At least on Scryfall. Maybe there's some art otherwise. Did you look anywhere else?
No, not outside of Scryfall.
Yeah. Okay,
we're
using Scryfall here, and this is the only art they have for it. It's the Godzilla King of the Monsters art, but the card is actually Zilortha, Strength Incarnate.
I think this is the bio box.
Yeah, and maybe it's weird that, anyways, maybe they've only released this one art for it, because I think usually Scryfall would be on. Scryfall's actually, they don't show any of the other Godzilla art for the other things. Anyways, it's 3 red and a green for a legendary dinosaur. It's 7/3 as trample, and it says lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. So this is just a fancy way of saying this is basically the old, the power dealt is dealt according to your toughness, right? Like that's the old way of doing it. Well, now it's with Zilortha or Godzilla, it's switched. So now the butt of this creature is as big as their power. So their toughness is basically it takes 7 power to kill Zilortha because it's a 7/3.
Yeah,
I like it. I think it's great. I think this is perfect. This is exactly like this is a new thing. I mean, but it's not so new that we don't recognize what it's doing. I think there's definitely a deck here. There's a bunch of creatures I thought of right away being like, oh, I love this creature, but it's like a 4/2 and it sucks, It's like a 5/1. But now it's not anymore. It's not. You found a home for so many useless red cards in this deck. Many bad red creatures are now.
Oh man, all those
good.
ball lightnings that are like 6/1 type of things. You're right.
I mean, you have to sacrifice those guys, but similar. But you're not wrong. Like that's that type of creature for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, would this have been a cooler Naya card? I don't actually. Maybe not. Maybe Jund would have been a good Jund card. But I'm not complaining though. I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's cool design. I can't wait to see what it actually looks like when it's not dressed up as Godzilla. But yeah, cool.
Yeah. So that takes care of all the like regular legendaries. But there's another 10 we alluded to that are the companion types. As we said, each guild has a companion, and there is a deck building requirement to allow you to have them in the companion role. You're always allowed to put them in the deck as the 99 as long as they're in your color identity. They're allowed to be your commanders as well. You don't have to follow the deck building restrictions in that case. It's just for that extra companion slot. And the controversy of them comes that it lets you cast them from outside the game. That's the text on it. But Commander officially doesn't recognize an outside of the game because we can't use wish cards. There's no such thing as wish boards. That's a house rule if you've ever used with wish boards or things like that. So the controversy in my mind is, where are these cards coming from then?
I believe that the rules have changed.
Have they? Ooh, let me at them.
I do believe that. Man, I should have looked this up first. But I for all the like the scuttlebutt I saw around the internet was that everyone was anticipating a rules change, or maybe they had actually announced it at this point. So there was just and I think it was, again, from what I saw at the time, people were anticipating that it was going to be simply to allow companion. Like, it wasn't going to open up the sideboard for any other cards. It was just going to be basically an exception to the existing rule for companion and for commander. Now, I actually I don't know if they actually went through with that. So basically, like, there still is like from what I can see, like, there's still no sideboard. Yes, right. Yeah, there's still no sideboard. The companion is basically just a 101st card that's allowed. So like I said, there's an exception that's essentially made to the rule here. So now outside the game simply counts for this one card as being your companion that you've built with.
But where is it coming from?
What do you mean?
That's what's bothering me. Where does it live?
So yeah,
what zone does it live in?
So yeah, there is a it's in the rules like article on the mothership there.
Is it comprehensive rules changes?
No, Ikoria, Lair of Behemoth's Mechanics from Matt Tabak on April 2nd. It looks like that's what I just saw a Reddit article that pointed to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is. Yep. There it is. Okay, yeah. So he does mention specifically Commander and talks about the rule change there. Okay. So, not to get too bogged down by the rule stuff here and whether or not we agree with it or like it or whatever, let's start talking about these cards and how they're actually going to play in / I guess out of our decks in Commander. So let's start with the first one here, Sean. You take this one.
Okay. I'm happy to. The first one is the Dimir. This is Gyruda, Doom of Depths, 4 Dimir. So 6 CMC, 4 plus 2 black or blue. The deck building rule to make this your companion is that your deck only has even CMC cards in it. So your signets are good, 4 drops, 2 drops, 0 drops are lands, that's fine too, but no odd number cards. When Gyruda enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Put a creature card with an even CMC from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control. So you got one. Gyruda comes with a buddy. That does not seem powerful enough to warrant it being a companion to restrict your deck building to only even cards.
Yeah, interesting, right? So like it doesn't even guarantee, like, you got to hit a creature. You can't have a graveyard full first because it says
no.
Put a creature card with even CMC from among those cards.
But it's probably neat in the 99. It's probably neat just to cast as a commander. It's a fun effect.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I guess you can kind of take a look at your deck and it's like, oh well, maybe I don't have to make that many changes to make this to make it your companion.
Maybe.
And of course, like we always say, restrictions breed creativity. So having this as your companion might be that restriction that helps you sort of build around it and have a fun time with the deck. I don't know. I'm willing to at least try brewing decks with companions. just to see kind of how good it is. So Gyruda seems like a decent one, but yeah, you're right. That's a heavy deck building cost. I have a feeling that they all will be. Next we have Giganta, the Wellspring, 4 and a single Gruul hybrid. So that one, I think that's unique. I think it's the only one with only one hybrid mana in its CMC, but there's a reason for that. It's a legendary elemental elk. It's a 5/5. Its deck building restriction is no card in your starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. So you can't have double of the same mana cost. It all has to just be one. So, like, to me, that's, again, a challenge, but not an insurmountable challenge. It seems interesting, especially when you look at its ability. Giganta also says tap, add Wooburg. This mana can't be spent to pay generic mana costs. So you just add a white, blue, black, red, green, and that can take care of your colored mana costs in a couple of different spells, probably. This one seems like it might be worth it.
This does mean that you have to be a 5-color deck because the color identity of Giganta is 5 colors. So I guess Gruul doesn't have one strictly. There's no strictly Gruul companion.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, actually. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even really think of that. Yeah, but you have to have a 5-color deck for this one. But, like, I don't know. Kind of cool, actually. I think it's not bad.
I mean, if we're 5-color, of course we've got different mana costs. That's going to be very easy.
Yeah, and
although the mana rocks are where you're going to have a hard time, because if you're lots of colors, you're going to need lots of fixing, but you only get one signet, because that's 2. Like, you can't have anything else that just costs 2 generic.
No, wait, what?
Or am I misunderstanding it? You can't.
No card in your starting deck can have more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost.
Oh, so you can't have green.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can have green-red. That's fun.
Yes, exactly. And you can have 2 generic.
Yes.
But now, correct me if I'm wrong. Does this mean you can't, say, run an Astral Cornucopia, which has XX as its mana cost?
I assume that's
2 of the
illegal.
same mana symbol in its mana cost, right? I don't think you can run that. That's interesting. So yeah, I don't know. This one is interesting to me, and I would like to try this one out and see how.
Yeah. The Selesnya one is Kahira, the Orphan Guard. Kahira guards the orphans. One. It says 3 total. 1 Selesnya. 3/2 with vigilance. The deck building restrictions are that each creature card in your starting deck is a cat, an elemental, a nightmare, a dinosaur, or a beast card. These are the 5 types of those legendary lore creatures we were talking about earlier with mutates. So they all your cards have to be one of those. And if you do, this gets to live, we don't know where it is. It's not in, it's somewhere that Commander doesn't apparently recognize, but that's okay. But each
very passive aggressive every time you talk about that.
It's just I you know, while you were reading another card, I did read what Matt Tabak said about it, and it is very unsatisfying. It does not help anything. It's just like, yeah, I know it's weird in Commander, but it's okay here. It's just like, you can't just say it's okay.
It's weird that I will say it again, and I don't want to get bogged down by it too much. I don't want to talk about it too much, but like, it's weird that they didn't just put it in the command zone and say that it doesn't return there ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why couldn't it just be that? That's weird. Anyways,
so here's what it does.
Yeah.
It's got 3/2 vigilance, and each other creature you control that's one of those 5 types gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not going to make a Selesnya Nightmare deck. That's for sure.
No.
Like, that's not going to happen. So you're maybe looking at beasts or cats, couple of random dinosaurs, and for what? To get like a little... No, can't do it.
Yeah, I'm into it as a companion if I'm running the like 5-color all legendary mutate. Like, I got Nethroy, I got Snapdax, I got,
Sure.
Vadrock and Brokos. If I'm running like the 5-color those guys deck, absolutely you're putting in Kahira the Orphan Guard as your probably as your companion if you can make it work. But let's not lose sight of the fact that these cards can also just be commanders, right? Like, they can just be 2-color commanders. Which
then you're restricted to a cat deck or a beast deck.
I agree. And I agree that this one in that regard also isn't great. So this one's pretty narrow. We're not super impressed with it. Next is Luris of the Dream Den. This is one of my favorite piece of art from the set. I think it looks...
Because of the little nightmare kitty?
Yeah, the little nightmare kitty and the cool mama kitty. One, and it's the Orzhov one, so 2 hybrid Orzhov mana. 3 total for a 3/2 legendary cat nightmare. The deck building restriction is each permanent card in your starting deck has converted mana cost 2 or less. Not great. Lifelink, and it says during each of your turns you may cast 1 permanent spell with CMC 2 or less from your graveyard. I mean, that's a nice bonus, but I don't know if I want to just run literally 2-drop tribal. Only 2 drops or less.
Tough.
It's tough.
I mean,
yeah, it's tough.
Is there any combos in there? That's what we would be looking for.
Yeah, but here's the thing, what am I getting out of it now? I'm getting a 3-mana 3/2 with lifelink that lets me, cast an extra spell from the graveyard. It's good, but it's not incredible. Yeah. And as a commander, I think again, not running it as your companion.
Commander's not bad.
Commander's not bad. Yeah, Commander, it's a neat little, you could probably do a pretty mean really low to the ground, kind of maybe sacking sort of aristocrat style deck with this. It'd be probably pretty good. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about this banned one. This is the one that was banned before anyone ever got to play with it.
Yeah.
Lutri the Spell Chaser. 1 is it, so 3 CMC total, red and blue. 3/2. The companion is the companion deck restriction is what commander is. Every card has to have a different name. You have to be playing Singleton, which is what we do. It has flash, and when Lutri enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. The reason it was banned is because it's a copy effect that requires nothing.
I think it's just I think you might have even gone one extra step on that, and I think it's just because it requires nothing.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It doesn't matter that it copies.
Exactly.
It's there's literally no cost. There's always a cost of your deck because it takes up a card slot. That's why we love lands with effects, because it's a looser card slot. I'm happy to give up a forest for a land that does something cool, but I'm giving up an actual effect of another creature or another spell if I'm putting in a different spell. But Lutri, because of how Companion works, because of this vague extra space that these campaigns are somehow allowed, but because Commander, there's no outside the game in Commander.
I agree.
That's not a thing.
Anyway, You're right.
So, but Lutri will never know it. And
because it's a
really
free
painful.
spell. There's no every single deck that has blue and red in it you could run this for free. You could just have this, even if it had nothing to do with anything your deck was doing.
Sure. You
could just include Lutri, and it would at 0 cost. So that's why
because it's even if you have no instants or sorceries, it's a flash creature,
exactly.
Right? There's no downside, literally. So that's why they had to ban it. I don't know why they can't let it be the commander. That seems fair to me, but that's just.
And we're creating 2 banned lists, and we know they don't want to do that. So let's move on. No reason to talk about Lutri really anymore. It's banned. Next we have Obosh, the Prey Piercer. 3 and 2 Rakdos, so 5 in total. 3 hybrid Rakdos for a 3/5 legendary Hellion horror. Cool. Its companion thing is your starting deck contains only cards with odd CMC mana costs and land cards. So they didn't have to make that thing before. They didn't make that rule in the other one because lands do have an even one. Anyways, it also says if a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. I think this is obviously a pretty decent, just 99 card in those types of decks that we all know that just want to deal a bunch of damage, because just that effect is, you just want that effect. Maybe even a pretty decent commander. Maybe you try and go a little more skewed towards the odd CMC stuff if it's your commander. As far as companion goes, this is one where I'm like, how many good cards in a deck that's like this am I omitting because I want Obosh as my as my companion, right? Like,
I know.
ooh, I think it might be a little bit too high of a cost. I have to look into it.
So much of the black and red draw are 2 mana spells.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't get any of them.
And there's some other good stuff I think you want in for those decks. Like we've put together a few of these decks over the years, and like I seem to remember like there's a lot of good stuff at 4. Like Furnace of Wrath, I think is 4, and like that's like a damage doubler. I think Dictate of the Twin Gods.
Dictate's 5.
It's 5. Okay, that's a good one then. Yeah. Okay. So I would have to look at obviously the types of cards that would go in a deck like this, but at first blush it seems like that might be a bit too high of a cost.
Yeah.
Anyways.
We got the Golgari next. Umori the Collector. 2 Golgari, so 4 CMC total. It's an ooze. Most ooze-looking ooze I think I've ever seen in Magic.
Yeah,
it's
very
ooze-looking.
Yeah.
4/5, very big. And the deck building restriction is that each non-land card in your starting deck shares a card type. Card types are artifacts, creatures, instants, sorceries, artifacts, enchantments, and like a couple of weird like tribal type of stuff. So, planeswalkers. So you kind of have to go creatures or artifacts.
Yeah,
probably.
Which is weird.
So creatures, right? If you're all like to not get to do any instants, like why am I in green and black if I can't ramp that way or like have the best kill spells? But let's consider Umori then as a regular card. A 4/5 for 4 is great. As it enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. I'm fine with that. Just getting a cheap deal on my creatures.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely this is one where I would want to run this as a 99.
Yeah.
4 mana, 4/5. That also lessens the cost of the type, like creatures again, like you said. It's weird because like Golgari, like you're not really thinking of an artifact deck, but this is really good for an artifact deck. But you're probably not running Golgari colors in an artifact deck. I mean black, obviously, but you're not running green, probably. Yeah, I don't know. This is like, I don't think I'm doing this as a companion.
Definitely not.
Right? That's too much, man. Like, what?
I'm happy to have this show up in a deck though.
I'm running like deck. 62 creatures. What does that deck look like?
I don't know.
Right?
I mean, there's a lot of mana ramp that are in creature form, but I don't think there's enough like
is this
draw or removal.
I saw Jason Alt tweet, like, has anyone ever run a literally all artifacts deck and how does it win? He must have been talking about putting together an Umori deck.
Yeah.
He must have. Anyway, so, I mean, I can't help but be excited by this card and think that it's good, but also very skeptical if I would ever want to run it as a companion. Even as a commander, there's something about running commanders where it's like their whole thing is they just do ramp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just isn't like exciting to me. Like it's probably very good and very effective, but like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
I also don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not exciting. I'm not that interested in it. But this card's good, I think. I think it's a fine 99 and probably a decent enough commander. Okay. Next we have Yorion. Yorion. I don't know. Yorion, Sky Nomad. 3 Azorius. 5 total for a 4/5 Bird Serpent. Very cool. The companion thing here is your starting deck contains at least 20 cards more than the minimum deck size. So how does this work for Commander? Because in Commander we have a maximum deck size.
I don't think this is legal.
Ah, that sucks.
But maybe someone can say, but you're allowed. And so then I don't know, like, if we don't care about the rules anymore for companions, why not just make a 120 card deck?
Yeah, hang on, I'm gonna look this up.
Okay, I'll read what it does while you do that.
Yeah.
So you get a 4/5 flying creature for your 5 mana, and when Yorion enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So it's that slow blink, that slow flicker. But you get to do all of your stuff that you choose when it enters. As a commander, that's very powerful. You could just jam all sorts of ETB stuff and just double down when you get to cast your commander. That sounds very powerful.
So looking it up, we're right. This can never be a companion. It's just the rules just simply don't work that way.
The rules just simply say that companion cannot exist, which is why Yorion can never be
there's
your
a special
commander.
exception. Yorion can never be your companion. However, like you said, yes, commander, and obviously in the 99, it's fine. I think you're right. I think this can be a pretty powerful commander. Just being able. People who run Brago decks know what blinking permanence is like, and obviously it's very good. And, maybe this isn't quite as good as Brago, but it does have the upside of you don't have to actually connect to do it, right? Like Brago needs to get through.
Yeah.
And then sort of goes wild. Whereas if all you need to do is do it once, which I think sometimes happens in those types of decks, I mean, your Ryan is arguably better in that case. You just cast them and it happens, right? It's not instant. It's not that blink. It's more that flicker where it comes back at the end step. So that's something. But I think it's pretty cool, pretty good.
Wait a second.
What?
Right. So Yorion, what's when Yorion enters, not when Yorion casts. You exile all the other non-land permanents. But once we've got something like Spark Double going around where we're allowed to get a second Yorion, and so now on your end step, they each come in and they make all the other ones go. So you could just, every end step, your whole team just keeps bouncing back and forth. Of course, you got nothing on the board in between there, but...
Well, that's not true. What if you have a bunch of stuff that...
Exactly.
What if you had a bunch of stuff that makes tokens or something, and we don't touch the tokens can stay?
Your whole board just...
Every turn it does that? Yeah, wow. Spark Double and Yorion looking real good.
Looking very spicy.
I like it. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Lastly,
yeah.
Zirda, the Dawnwalker. Cute little elemental fox. This is the Boros one. 3 CMC, 1 Boros. 3/3. The companion restriction is each permanent in your deck has to have an activated ability. So activated abilities... And then the what Zirda gives you is abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana cost to less than 1 mana. And it has 1 tap, target creature can't block this turn. So that's equip costs, Equipment is allowed, any artifact taps with an activated ability. You need to have creatures that have activated abilities. But when Zirda pops out, you can get them all for pretty cheap.
Very cheap. Zirda is the one that caught my eye the most, I would say, of all of these creatures, actually. I think that, obviously 3 mana, 3/3 is very reasonable cost. So if we're talking about commanders, you can get this out when you need it to be able to lessen those activated abilities. I think the target creature can't block this turn thing is, just basically flavor text. But it's not terrible, though. It's fine. I like it as a commander. I like it as a 99 in any kind of deck that wants to do this type of thing. Again, we're talking Boros here, so it's probably equip costs come to mind first. But I think there's still a lot of space here to include this in a good Jeskai deck that has some cool activated abilities and so on. Also,
you don't have to it's permanence. You're allowed to have instants and sorceries.
Absolutely, and that's why I think that this is probably the most realistic companion creature for commander. I think, like you said, because it's only permanence and we can have instants and sorceries and stuff, I think that it's probably more doable than any of the other ones. It has probably the lowest sort of deck building cost, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
As being your companion. The other one, the only other ones I think of are the even and odd ones. It's we could do that, but I think the cost is just higher. So Zirda is kind of, I think, all around. What's going on with the world? We're the most excited about a Boros commander? What's happening here? But I think it's really good, and I like the way that they've kind of stepped up this ability for this guild that needs help, and Zirda's here to help.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Pretty exciting.
Neat. So that wraps up the companions. Next up, we're going to move on to different color cards, just regular old cards, non-legendaries, unless they're in a legendary enchantment or artifact or something. And we're just going to highlight the ones that we think are especially neat for the world of Commander. And we may miss a few ones that, that go in like one deck so perfectly. Because every card goes in a deck perfectly. So we might miss one or two of those. We're going to try to talk a little bit more generally, a little bit ones we are more excited about.
Yeah, we're mostly talking about as from a general commander perspective, something that can go in a couple of different decks at least and have a bit of an impact.
So let's start with lands. What new lands did we get?
First lands that we're going to talk about are the new Tri-lands. They are very interesting. So not only are they Tri-lands, they are like different basic land types, which is the first time that's ever happened. And not only are they that, they also have cycling on them. These lands are incredible. So for the example, we have the Jeskai one, Rogrin Triome. They're all triomes. They're all the different triomes. So this is a land, island, mountain, plain. So anything that, lets you fetch an island card or a plains or whatever it is can get this. It enters the battlefield tapped, and it has cycling for 3 generic. These are rares. So
don't love that from a budget point of view.
I know. I wouldn't anticipate
pricey.
These are gonna be real cheap. But what do we think? I mean, I don't know. They look great.
Yeah, I mean, everything you want in lands, multicolored lands that have land types are just upside. The fact that it cycles is a strict upgrade to the regular Tri-lands that we've always had. Great.
Is the fact that it comes into the battlefield tapped enough to sort of keep it out of standard or modern or things like that, or even just the more competitive commander players?
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to standard or modern.
That's my only hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? I mean, I feel like even the decks in standard, they'll probably run it.
They will become commander staples.
Yeah, agreed. Well, let's hope that they stay under $1 forever.
Well, they're starting at 10, so let's see how that goes.
Well, you know what? A guy can dream.
Yeah. There's another rare land that I think is interesting called Bonder's Enclave. It taps for colorless, but it has an activated ability, 3 tap, draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. I'm always on the lookout for ways to boost card draw in a Boros type of deck, right? I've got my eye on lands that let you draw cards. You have to have a creature with power 4 or greater, but in the decks that have a hard time drawing, they usually don't have a hard time having a big creature. So I think this will be a nice include for those type of decks.
Yeah, I like it. It feels like this should be a forest of some kind, but that's okay. I mean, whatever though. I think it's great. Give it to the decks that need it. Perfect. Okay, so let's keep going, not with lands, but let's keep going with colorless cards. Starting here with Sleeper Dart. It's a 2-mana artifact. It's common. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, so it replaces itself. And you can tap, sacrifice it. Target creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. I think that this card, while seemingly fairly innocuous, actually can have a major impact on games. First of all, I was going to say, I think it's a different card, but tapping creatures is very underrated in Commander. It's a form of removal that isn't always relevant, yes, but also when it is, it's majorly relevant because it takes care of creatures that killing and stuff like that just doesn't. So I think I like that a lot. And then just preventing things from untapping. And if you have an artifact deck where you can bring this thing back again and again, not only can you be drawing cards off of it, so it's nice that it cantrips like that, but this ability is not bad. So I like both sides of this card, and I like it for a lot of different artifact decks, I think.
I want to make sure we're being clear, though. This doesn't actually tap a creature.
No, exactly.
It doesn't. So they have to be tapping on their own. So even I'm interested in this card, even in a deck where you can't use it to keep a creature down because they're not tapping their creatures. It's still, there are decks that want artifacts that go to the graveyard, and this one effectively has cycling. Cycling is 2 mana, discard it, draw a card, which is what this basically does.
True. Yep.
But there's a bonus effect that you can sometimes get. So I think artifact decks artifacts entering, artifacts in the graveyard, swapping artifacts will want this card very much. It's very mobile. It does a lot.
I agree. Like I include the like red, what are they called? Like
The welders.
No, the close though. It's the ones that came before it from like Mirrodin, and then they made a new cycle of them in Scars of Mirrodin or Mirrodin Besieged. Anyways, the spell bombs. So like when you pay red and you can sack it to draw a card. Like this is and it deals like 2 damage to something. I mean, this is almost as effective as that. Could be better in certain situations and so on. So I think it's definitely worth a look.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Ooh, the Ozolith. This is a weirdo.
Sandus Ozolith, former San Jose Sharks player. Where are my hockey playing fans at? You know what I mean? Sandus Ozolith. Anyway, see you later.
So Stannis, is it Stannis?
Sandus.
Sandus is a 1-mana legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has any counters on him, you're allowed to move all of those counters. You can't mix and match. You got to move all of them onto target creature at the beginning of your combat. This is in a set that introduces like trample tokens and lifelink tokens, so that does get more interesting in that way. But the one token of an evergreen ability...
Counters, not tokens.
Counters, right.
Yeah.
But the one kind of counter that we don't get is haste counters, which I feel is going to be the most valuable one to move onto a creature at the beginning of combat.
I didn't even think of that.
So, I mean, that sucks.
Yeah, that does kind of suck.
But in general, like, if you're a +1/+1 counter deck, I think this is an auto-include, because as your creatures are dying, someone just banks them. It's a little bit less flexible than a Forgotten Ancient, but it comes down way cheaper, and it's arguably harder to get rid of.
Yeah, also leaves the battlefield. It doesn't have to die or anything like that. It's just leaves, so bouncing, blinking, anything like that is all going to make it count. So
if you had a commander with haste and you had some +1/+1 counters, this would be very dangerous.
I mean, Edgar Markov comes to mind. He puts a lot of +1/+1 counters on things.
And they all come back?
Yikes. The Ozolith, I think the really great thing about Ozolith is very low cost here. A single mana, and you got it out there, and it's just going to affect the board. Doesn't do anything, obviously, on its own, but I think can have a major impact in those decks. So, pretty cool card.
So that's the colorless
legendary,
cards.
though. It's legendary, though. Don't make more than one of them. Yeah,
we're going on to colors, starting with white. Andy, take us away.
Man, I'm just underwhelmed by the white cards in this set. Are you not? Like,
well, it's all human-y, tribal-y, cycle-y stuff.
Everything's very bad, except this card's very good. Luminous Brood Moth, 2 white. This is the Mothra. Like if you get the Godzilla cards, this is what Mothra is. But Luminous Brood Moth is 2 white for an insect. It's a 3/4 with flying. It says whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. So, what? Just everything, like nothing dies. It just comes back with flying.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That's crazy. Like, just don't include flying creatures in your deck because they're going to get flying, if you have this thing. No, I love this card, man. This goes in so many different decks. Like, anything with black is going to be great. Put this in every Orzhov deck. Put this in Abzan decks. I love it, man. Put this in, like, even in just, like, big creatures decks. Like, put this in a Naya deck and watch it just, like, someone board wipe and give everything flying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. This creature's incredible.
I love it.
I love it.
The only other white card on our list is it's an instant. It's on here because it's a 1 CMC instant. It's called Fight as One. Choose one or both. Target human creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible. Target non-human creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Mm-hmm. So I always want to point out when we can have a 1 CMC card that can protect our commander from getting destroyed.
Yep.
That's your commander's either human or non-human, so this is going to work on your commander.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We always like to point these cards out because they are very good. They're very helpful. You're running a bunch of board wipes. This is even good for you if you're going to board wipe, right?
Yeah.
Adding that one extra.
Gets 2 of yours. Yeah.
Right. I love it. You can save 2 creatures. Yeah, so it's really great, and especially since, I mean, this is like, there's a free spell that gives all your creatures indestructible in the new commander set, like if you control your commander. Well, this is 1 mana, and if you only had 2 creatures to begin with, it's the same spell.
Yeah.
If you have a human and a non-human, for example. So I love it.
Yeah.
But that's it for white. Honestly, white was pretty narrow in this set and didn't really show up, so that's quite disappointing, honestly.
Sorry, white.
But there's also a lot of multicolored stuff in this set, so the actual monocolored cards, there's less, I think, overall anyway. So
yeah,
this is the only stuff that's stuck out to us. But let's move on to blue. Always some good stuff in blue. Ominous Seas is 1 and a blue for an enchantment. It says whenever you draw a card, put a foreshadow counter on Ominous Seas. Remove 8 foreshadow counters from Ominous Seas. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token. So like, pretty cool. You know, it's going to be decent in a deck where you're going to be drawing a lot of cards, obviously. But also, this card just has cycling for 2. So, you know, maybe this isn't even that exciting as a regular card, but you throw cycling on it, and all of a sudden, you know, it's viable. This is an uncommon, also.
Yeah, like I mean, it obviously sucks to draw this card late, but that's where cycling is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, gonna be looking good, I think, in a few different decks. I mean, also stuff with like proliferating and all that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah,
whatever. It should be noted though that this is not a Kraken that gets hexproof.
Right.
This is just a regular 8/8 blue Kraken.
A targetable Kraken.
Yeah, hacking.
Wizards, thanks for making this card uncommon. This is a Reconnaissance Mission. 2 blue for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card.
Wizards, thanks.
Wizards, thanks. And it also has cycling too. It's an upgrade. It's a strict upgrade and a strict rarity downgrade, which is the best kind of downgrade.
Exactly, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, Thassa's, what is it? Thassa's Bident?
Thassa's Bident or Coastal Piracy.
Right, yeah. They print.
Those are getting pricey.
That's true. I mean, they print Thassa's Bident so much it might as well be an uncommon. But the one thing that also is better is that this is not Thassa's Bident is an artifact and an enchantment.
Right.
So it can be hit by things that only hit artifacts, for example.
Yep.
Yeah, love it. Strict upgrade. Very happy.
Love it.
Next is Shark Typhoon. I love this card so much. It's just, Sharknado. 5 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Amazing. Put this in your instant and sorcery spells or a deck and have a great time. But also, this card has cycling for X1 and a blue. X1 and a blue. So if you put 4X, 6 mana total, it says when you cycle Shark Typhoon, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying. So if you cycle this, for example, 6, you get a 4/4 blue shark, plus you get to draw a card. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Even in that case, it's not bad, but I think you're going to want to hold on to this and cast it for its full cost and get this incredible deal out of it, which you're gonna get. It's gonna be great.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. Very fun.
They also threw cycling on cancel with neutralize.
Yes.
1 blue, instant, counter target spell, cycling 2. So simple, so elegant, so grateful that we have this. Love it.
Very, very good. Okay, here's a question I have for you. How much better does this make this card? We're not running cancel in any of our decks. We're running much better. We may well be running 3 mana cost counters. So where does this in the pantheon of 3 mana counter spells?
I think it's up there. It's one of the first ones I'm looking to because of that flexibility, right? Like, agreed, it sucks. Yeah. Like, it sucks to hold up 3 mana and your opponents don't do anything. You're like, this doesn't really impact me. This doesn't hurt me. Maybe you spent all your turn doing an activated ability, and I need to get rolling. This game is like kind of early. I don't have time to sit on this counter spell and wait 4 turns for you to play your game-winning move. I need to get, hopefully I'll draw my other counter spell by the time I need it, but I need to develop my board. It's fantastic. Yeah,
agreed. I think it's very strong. Yeah. It's an uncommon, so I don't see what's this starting price on this? Can't be very high.
42
right?
cents.
Love it. Make it go less, please. Even.
Yeah.
But yeah, this seems like it's going to be okay for Commander.
Yeah.
Next, we have Of One Mind. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a human creature and a non-human creature. So you need to control both. And then you can just draw 2 cards for a single blue. Sorcery.
That's very good. I had a look. I just looked at some, like, what are some blue commanders that are humans? Right?
Okay.
Just off the top of my head. So you got Sai, always has Thopters with him. Joyra, casting Historics, draws you cards. Kess, Joda, Archmage Eternal, Surak, Dragonclaws, full of beasts. Yurikos, full of weird ninja types. Gisa and Geralf are humans, and you're full of zombies there. There are so many decks with human commanders where this is just shy of 1 blue, draw 3 cards. It's 1 blue, draw 2 cards. You can't get a better rate in like fair commander cards.
You know what? Where I've sort of more appreciated cards like this, where it's like there's a mana reduction, and it's something like drawing 2 cards, because this is very close to just cycling, right? It's extremely close to that. A single blue to cycle to draw 1 card. But that drawing 2 cards is a lot better than you think, because even just like copying this with like a reverberate or something, or I don't know, whatever ways we have to do that, all of a sudden you're drawing 4 cards. Like, that's a big windfall. That's a big payoff, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have some sort of onboard, like there's like the commander deck that's all about copying spells and stuff. Like, this is a great card to throw in there.
Right.
Great. So yeah, there's the blue cards. So
there we go.
Not a ton of them, but a couple nice ones.
Moving on to black, starting us off with an enchantment called Bastion of Remembrance. 2 and a black. When Bastion of Remembrance enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Cool. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. This is that Zulaport Cutthroat, this aristocrat type of sack thing. It's on an enchantment, which I don't know if we've seen before.
Yeah.
Very hard to destroy, and it is among the better of those effects.
Yeah.
It doesn't care if the creature's a token or not, so it applies to tokens. And I mean, it has to be one that you control, so that's the worst of the 2. Sometimes some of them work on any creature, but each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. This is like an excellent card in that deck.
Yeah, totally. And it still brings a body with it. Like, on top of that, like, I think Zulaport Cutthroat is a human, is a 1/1, I think.
Yeah.
So this still gives you the 1/1 if for some reason,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And this is one where you can then sack that creature and you don't lose the ability. So
Yes.
sometimes it's better to have it on a creature so that you can, like, maybe that's recurable and that's something you're looking for. But I think there's also a lot of times when it being on an enchantment is going to make it even better. So
Agreed.
notable. Next we have Blood Curdle. 3 and a black for an instant, destroy target creature, but then you put a menace counter on a creature you control. So, 4 mana for an instant, destroy target creature is fine. It's okay. But then this, like, menace thing, like, in the right deck, that can be really huge, right? Like, something where you toss that on your commander, or you toss it on some kind of thing that couldn't have gotten through but was going to have a big effect. There's so many cards that care about connecting, and there's so many times in a game where you just need to connect that one extra time. So not only now can you destroy one of their 2 blockers, but now you can actually get through it as well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just like the design here. It's really like this card. I know it sounds weird to say, but it synergizes with itself really well. Like, both parts of the card really synergize. And I think it's just cool. And I think don't sleep on it for Commander. I think it could actually be good.
I like it. Next up is Call of the Death Dweller. It's a sorcery, 2 and a black. Return up to 2 target creature cards with total converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a death touch counter on either of them, then put a menace counter on either of them. Return 2 creature cards with mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You're getting 6 CMC for 3 straight into the battlefield, plus they get an upgrade of menace and death touch if they're attacky combat.
Sorry,
What's that?
No. Return up to 2 target creature cards with total converted mana cost 3 or less. So you're getting 3 CMC worth, yes.
Same deal.
Yeah, same deal. So you're paying for the 3. However, a lot of times, like you've seen these decks, these black, especially like Abzan decks do it a lot. Maybe even like Grixis deck, but like there's like combo pieces where now you pay 3 mana, you get these 2 little guys that just work together, like a 2 mana creature, and then there's that 1 mana thing that maybe even just comes in and draws you a card or something like that. Like, I think that this card you could see this pop up in some combo decks, things that, you know, run weird little old creatures that cost like 1 and 2 and seem like they don't do anything, but actually look out because they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could be a little better than it looks. Next we have Dirge Bat. 2 black for a creature. It's a bat. It's a 3/3. It has flash and flying, and it has mutate for 6. So 4 black. Whenever this creature mutates, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. 6 is a lot to pay to have this thing mutate. But because it has flash, does that mean you can mutate it at instant speed also?
That's true. Yeah, you're allowed to.
So there you go. That's something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like this seemed like notable just because it was a mutate card where it's like, okay, I don't need to run a ton of mutate to have this be an okay card.
Yeah,
run, you know?
no, it's true. It's a removal spell that like, and a flying 3/3 with flash isn't bad if you don't get to.
Yeah. And this, so for 6 mana, you flash in this, you flash mutate this. Not only do you get to destroy something, but let's say you have some giant creature. Well, it now gets flying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think you'd most likely put this under to give something flying.
Probably.
And have it attack right away. So I mean that's worth looking at.
I think it's worth looking at.
Cool.
So is Extinction Event, 3 and a black for a sorcery where you choose odd or even, and you exile each creature with converted mana cost of the chosen value. 0 is even.
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah, very weird.
These are those like weird board wipes where like it's like I mean when you choose a creature type and destroy anything that's not a creature type, you're obviously going to run a deck where it's a lot of that creature type. Are you going to brew a deck that's mostly odd or mostly even to take advantage of this, or are you just running this and hoping you get a good outcome where you're like, yeah, most of my stuff lives and most of their stuff doesn't?
I think that this is worth talking about and looking at simply for the fact that it gets around exile or hexproof and stuff for certain cards, right?
That's true. Yeah, if there's like what price will you pay to get rid of that hexproof 6-drop? Like, will you lose all your even creatures?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, having this in your hand, obviously, you're going to know what's happening. So you're going to know to hold back your even creatures or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the real value comes in, and then obviously there's going to be random times where you just like eviscerate someone's board with this, and you don't touch any of your own stuff. There's going to be weird and everything in between. So, but I think, like I said, for that one thing where it just kind of it's kind of targeted removal for a couple things that gets around hexproof sometimes.
Yeah,
kind of cool. So there you go.
So let's go to some red cards then.
Yeah.
First up is a 1 and a red for an instant, Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. Deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard, and if that creature player would die, you get to exile it instead. It's always nice when a card gets to exile a creature. We hate creatures going to the graveyard on our opponent's side because they usually come back.
Yeah. I used to run a card, and Butler used to run it too a lot. He probably still does.
Burnaway.
Burnaway, yeah. Burnaway is a decent card. It deals what, like 5 damage or something? 5 or 6 damage.
6.
It's like a 4, is it a 4 or 5 mana?
It's a 5 mana instant. It deals 6 damage to a creature, and when that creature dies, you exile their whole graveyard.
So that's sweet, right? You're
Yeah.
exiling an entire graveyard, but it's a lot to pay. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor just can sometimes handle the thing that you don't want going to the graveyard.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, which is good. And I think, like, there's a potential for this to be a really big damage dealer to a creature, right?
It's
like,
true.
This could be massive in the right deck. So just something to look at for those types of decks. This might be the first time where we have more red cards than blue, white, black. I think about the same of green, but there's a bunch of red cards in this deck. Flame Spill. This one's notable. 2 and a red for an instant. This is Flame Spill deals 4 damage to target creature. excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller. Instead, we have trample on a spell, everyone.
They did it.
They did it. They took it straight from a silver bordered set and they put it right into an actual Magic set. Obviously, this card isn't like very flashy or very good for Commander or anything. I think it's just notable to point out that we have trample on a spell.
Yeah, I love it.
Me too.
We also want to highlight Rooting Moloch, 4 and a red for a lizard. That's 4/4. 5 mana for 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you exile a card with cycling from your graveyard, and until the end of your next turn, you get to play that card. But it also has cycling of 2. So if if once we get, you fast forward 10 more sets, like when cycling comes back 1 or 2 more times, like we might have enough cycling where you can have a deck where half of it cycles.
Yeah.
Like we've got a counter spell with cycle. We're gonna get to. We've got a naturalize with cycling. Like we've got a lot of cards with cycling now, where half your deck can just have cycling. So this card gets you 1 back for the next turn. I like that.
Yeah, I also like that Rooting Moloch lets you play the card. So if you got a cycling land, you can actually just play that too.
Yeah.
Next is Unpredictable Cyclone, 3 red for an enchantment. If a cycling ability or another non-land card would cause you to draw a card, instead exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a card that shares a card type with the cycled card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way onto the bottom of your library in a random order. So I wasn't paying attention to anything I just read. What does this do?
So so you're gonna cycle. Okay, so it's about cycling, but it works for any card that makes you, any non-land card that makes you draw a card.
Right.
So most of the time this will be an instant, but sometimes it will be a creature that makes you draw a card when it ETBs. But most of the time we're going to be cycling and drawing a card. But when that does, you don't draw the card. You flip through your deck until you hit another permanent, not a permanent, until you hit another card that shares a card type
with the cycled card.
With the cycled card. Wait, well then why do they say it that way?
Yeah, I know. So that's why. Okay, so that's what I'm confused about. Is like, you may cast a card without paying its mana cost. I get that. I get that it wants to. So if I cycle a creature, I don't just draw a card. Creature. It just turns into another creature, and goes into my hand, right?
But what is a non-land card?
Oh no, I know you can cast it without paying its mana cost. Okay, so you get to cast it for free. So that's sweet. But yeah, this is the part I'm confused about. Is like if okay, no, it is a cycling ability.
Yes, it is. That
another
first sentence confused me.
non-land card. If a cycling ability of another non-land card, not or. I thought for some reason I thought I said or there.
And I think I read
cause
it as
you
or.
to draw a card. Right. Okay, so yeah. So this is like
only cycling.
This turns cycling on into something crazy, right? You cycle a sorcery, you're going to get the next sorcery in your deck. You cycle a creature, you're going to get the next creature, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Like,
yeah.
Again, like type of thing where like, okay, do I just, obviously this goes in a cycling deck, but do I look at my other deck? Like, let's say I have an instant and sorcery deck. It's like, I have like 20 cycling cards in here. Like, do I just include Unpredictable Cyclone because it's going to be so good?
With that many cycling cards, sure.
Also, this card cycles. It cycles for 2. So, very low cost including it. That's what I mean. Yeah. Things are getting wild with this cycling stuff. Yeah, all right.
We've got another red one coming up. Weaponize the Monsters. It's a sack outlet. Red, enchantment. The cheapest it can be. The activated ability is 2, sack a creature. Weaponize the Monsters deals 2 damage to any target. So Goblin Bombardment is the gold standard because it's a free sack outlet. This is not a free sack outlet, but it does more damage. So, I mean, in a world where Goblin Bombardment is like $5, I'll take this for a quarter.
Yeah, interesting. 2 mana is a lot to pay, but it's still not terrible.
Yeah.
Footfall Crater is the last red card. It's a single red for an aura that you enchant a land. Then the enchanted land has tap target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn, and it has cycling for a single generic. This is all about the cost of putting this in your deck, right? Are you going to be in places where you don't need this card? Absolutely, but it cycles for only 1.
Yeah,
so it's very low cost. But there's also going to be turns where like, oh sweet, I could just give my thing trample and haste.
Yeah.
Put this in a Gruul deck. Watch it just be one of the best cards you draw. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
when
It's
you put
cool.
this on a land, it makes everything cost one more, quote unquote, because the turn you cast the creature, you want to give it haste, so you're going to want to have this land available. But, I mean, yeah, like Andy said, it costs one to cycle. So if your hand is like, I'm going to go 4-drop, 5-drop, I don't have time for this, no problem. Turn it into something else before you get that curve rolling.
I think if this is in your opening hand, you just cycle it.
Probably.
Right? And then if you get it middle to late game, you probably, I mean, you can still just cycle it. But if you know you've got some other big creatures in your hand, then you can play it and really surprise some of your opponents. Interesting card. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to green. Speaking of Gruul and red and green, our first green card is Auspicious Starix. Yeah, Starix. 4 and a green for a 6/6 elk beast with mutate for 5 and a green. So one more to mutate it than to cast it. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanent cards, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. Put those permanent cards onto the battlefield. Solid. I mean, this is another one where I don't think you need a ton of mutate to support it. I think you're happy if this happens once. Because it's a 6/6 creature that brings another permanent with it. Which is pretty sweet.
I like it. I also like Barrier Breach, 2 and a green, instant exile up to 3 target enchantments, and it cycles for 2. Wizards thinks.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Wizards thinks. Yeah, I think this card's cool, man. 3 mana instant that gets 3 enchantments and it exiles them.
Yeah.
Like, this is a good way to get rid of gods.
Yeah.
Pesky gods. And then guess what? If they don't have any,
that's the thing.
Cycle it, baby. Who cares?
We love cards that say artifact or enchantment. It's hard sometimes when it only says enchantment, because what if you're facing an artifact deck and they got no targets? It's like, great, I'll cycle it. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. I agree. I agree. I think we're trained to be like, oh, this only deals with enchantments. Ugh. You know, because we're so used to them coming as a package, but when this deals, it exiles up to 3 enchantments, and enchantments are arguably always the bigger problem. Yeah. Like, some guy's got a Bind's Dilation, some guy's got a Doubling Season, and if I normally had something that, like, I've had like a Hull Breach that hits both, I'm like, okay, kill your Doubling Season, and I don't know, your Signet, you know.
Yeah,
Barrier Breach is going to get 3 or less enchantments, and like you said, cycling. So I like this card a lot.
Yeah,
I'm going to be including this in my green decks.
Yeah.
Next is Kalasa Fication. A lot of talk going around this card. This is one of the ones that always grabs players' imaginations, this type of card. So it's 5 and 2 green for an aura. You enchant a creature. When it enters the battlefield, you tap enchanted creature. And enchanted creature gets +20/+20. Crazy.
Great.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Like, so they've been talking a lot about, like, what are the implications of standard and limited and so on. But in Commander, the sky is the limit. You put this on something that then just untaps? Like, okay. Well, this is crazy. This is the biggest aura. This is the biggest enchant creature card. So,
yeah. If you care about power or toughness,
anything,
like if you like to fling anything, like
those are the first things that come to mind. There's also stuff like Chandra's Ignition to like killing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Players this way. Like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do with this card. So
yeah.
And even if you're not untapping it, and even if it just stays tapped, there's still lots of crazy stuff you can do. So
yeah.
Wild shenanigans. Classification is going to be a cool one for enchantment players. What else?
It's not the right art there, but it's happy to get another copy of Fertilid printed. Fertilid is the best. 2 and a green, 0/0, but it enters with 2 +++ encounters, so we love to proliferate. We love to do stuff with that. And 1 and a green, remove a counter. Target player searches their library for a basic land, puts on a field tapped. It's ramp that costs 2, but it is reusable ramp. Fertilid is one of the few cards that can put 2, 3, 4, or more lands onto the battlefield in one turn.
Yeah.
The very high ceiling. It is going to be interesting to see how this works in a set with Mutate, where you just like mutate onto a Fertilid, and now the thing is even bigger with +1/+1 encounters.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Fertilid. One of our favorite cards. Migration Path is 3 and a green for a sorcery. It says search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. You may recognize this as explosive vegetation, except this is explosive vegetation with cycling. Cycling for 2 generic.
Strict upgrade.
Strict upgrade. 100%.
Thank you, Wizards. We've got Ram Through. It's an instant, 1 and a green. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. And if that creature has trample, the damage tramples to the creature's controller instead. Like, this is another instant with trample on it, if your creature already has trample. Like, we just had Kalasa Fication for +20/+20. You could do a ton of damage to someone with this.
Exactly. So that's the thing, right? So not only like ram through, just it looks like a fight card or at least a deal damage to creature card, but sneakily it's much more than that. You can end games because, again, like Sean said, like if you have a big creature with trample, you can and for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's tapped down or it's, you know, it can't attack, it's got some aura on it or something like that. Ram through on their token, on their 1/1 flyer, and then ram the rest of the damage into the player and kill them.
Yeah.
Pretty cool card. People are not going to see
like
that
it.
coming. And it's instant speed
it.
as well. And finally, we have Wilt for 1 and a green. It's a destroy target artifact or enchantment for an instant. And it has cycling too. So it's, again, forget about you, Naturalize. Wilt is in.
Yeah, we've never had this with cycling before. I had a look. We've had destroyed enchantment for 4 with cycling, but never strict naturalize with cycling. This is the best.
I think they were just finally like, you know what? No one's playing Naturalize in anything.
Yeah.
So it's time we just gave it an upgrade.
Yeah, finally.
And I think they're right. No one runs Naturalize in any format, I'm pretty sure. And so, I mean, maybe Wilt has a chance to make it somewhere. So
I think so. That's like it's never a dead card.
No. So there you go. There's all your monocolored cards and your colorless cards. Some interesting and cool stuff in there for sure. Now we're going to move on to the multicolored spells, of which there are quite a few. This is a real multicolored set here.
Yeah.
So it's we'll hit these, then we'll hit our. There's only 3 planeswalkers for this set, and then we'll be done.
Alrighty. So to start us off, these are like, I mean, they're technically colorless, but they are ID multicolor. The color commander identity, because they are mana rocks that tap for 3 colors. This is the example we're using is Zagoth Crystal, 3 generic for an artifact. It taps to add one of the Sultai colors, either black, blue, or green, but it has cycling 2. Neat. If we draw...
Sorry, I'm just pulling this up. There we go. Zagoth. Oh, yeah, Zagoth Crystal. There it is.
Should we hit that again?
Yeah, hit that again. Sorry, hang on. Okay, hit it again.
So the first multicolor card technically is colorless, but it has an identity of Sultai, for example, is Zagoth Crystal, 3 generic for an artifact, and it taps to add black, blue, or green to your mana pool, but it also cycles for 2. The implications of a mana rock that cycles is very interesting to me.
We talked about this, like, just, I think, the other day, just talking about this before we recorded or something, but it's like, is this better than a banner?
Right.
Like, I don't see the banners run very often.
No.
Is this better? So this, you have to make the decision on whether or not you're going to cash it in for the card before you cast it. So early game, you're pretty much always going to cast this down to ramp yourself.
Always.
And now there's no cashing it in later.
It's locked.
So in that way, it's worse. But it's better in the fact that if you draw it late, the cycling cost is much less than casting it and then sacking it to draw the card. But usually you don't care about that. I will say, like, I guess that's not entirely true, but like late game, you're in a better position to be able to spend the, like, whatever it is, 5 mana, or I don't know how much it is to sack a banner. I've never played with one of them. You're in a better place though, to do that because you have more mana usually. However, if you draw into something good, there's no telling whether or not you're going to actually have the mana left over at that point. But I'd say that I don't know. I don't think these are going to get there.
Okay.
I feel like don't you feel like it's kind of worse? Because you can't play it, have it ramp you, and then later when you need a card, cash it in. You can't do that.
I mean, the reason I can't decide is because I also have never played with banners, and I don't know if I ever would cash them in, but I definitely would cycle these.
I would, yes, exactly. Yeah, and there's the weirdness about it, right? It's like, yeah, I agree with you, because I would cycle this. Yeah, I don't know. But does that, yeah, I don't think it's, anyways, interesting though, interesting to talk about. So our first truly multicolored spell is Channeled Force. 2 blue red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you discard X cards. Target player draws X cards. Channeled Force deals X damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. So it is only creatures and planeswalkers, which is a bummer, but it is a bit of a wheel here. In that you get, but it's a selective wheel. You get to just select which cards you're discarding, and then you can target yourself with the draw, and then target, a creature or a planeswalker, and just kind of murder them.
You can also make someone draw out their library if you have enough cards.
If you had a ton of cards in your hand, yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, there are decks though, like we mentioned earlier, Arjun and stuff like that, where that is not outside of the realm of possibilities, right? Like,
yeah.
So Channel Force is an interesting one. I'm very like, just the kind of fact that it's like a selective wheel is kind of interesting to me. Like I kind of like that. Yeah. And it deals damage to something. I think that's worth it. I think that's cool.
That's cool. I also like Fiend Artisan. It's 2 Golgari hybrids. 2 CMC, has to be black or green in any combination. It's a 1/1. But it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard, very Golgari. And for X and a Golgari and a tap, you can sack another creature, search your library for a creature with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library only when you can cast a sorcery. That's the pod effect, but it doesn't have to be, well, it's this big or smaller. It doesn't get bigger, but... that's not right, because pod sacks a creature and the creature gets a little bit bigger. This just also, sacks a creature and turns it into anything.
You have to pay for this too. You have to pay the
right.
So like if you want to if you wanted to truly do pod, so you wanted to sacrifice your 3-drop and get a 4-drop, you have to pay the 4x. You have to actually pay 5 and sacrifice the thing that costs 3.
Right.
That sucks.
Does it suck to turn a token? But yeah,
no, it doesn't suck. That's the thing. It's like it. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like compared to what pod does. But
sure.
The fact that you can get any creature though, truly, is actually quite good.
Yeah.
Right. So sacrifice any creature, go through and get something awesome from your library and just put it out. That's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this card's good. And the fact that it gets bigger is just like wicked. I played against this. I played against this on Arena today. Whoa. I just like needed to kill like 20 minutes, so I just popped into like a standard match, and someone had built a very wanting to be fun and janky new Golgari deck with a lot of Ikoria cards, and this card was in it, and I did win. But this card was still really good. Yeah. Commander, I think it's awesome. I really want one of these.
Yeah.
That's a mythic rare, by the way.
Yeah, one of the most expensive ones right now.
Wow. Okay, next we have Death's Oasis. It's an enchantment. It's a rare. It's white, black, green, and it says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a creature card with lesser CMC than the creature that died from your graveyard to your hand. And you can pay 1. You can sacrifice this, Death's Oasis. You gain life equal to the greatest CMC among creatures you control. So if something dies, you get to return something from your graveyard that has less CMC to your hand. That's a cool ability. We've seen that on like what's the artifact that does that? There's an artifact from like Kaladesh or something that does that, and it's always a part of crazy broken artifact decks where you get to like bring back these like less CMC artifact
So
cards.
the reason that artifact one was so good was because it's easy to make artifacts cheaper. So you're often sacking artifacts for value and getting one that's like it has to be less CMC, but you can cast it for even less. I don't know if you can do as many shenanigans as this. It reminds me a bit of Carador, but
I think you can do some pretty interesting stuff with this. I think, I think you're gonna. This just is like, please make a combo out of me, please.
well, I mean, oh yeah, it's non-token. Yeah, I mean it fills your graveyard pretty quick.
Yeah, like just thinking of like Karmic Guide, not paying for Karmic Guide's thing, getting something back, but Karmic Guide gets you something in return. I'm sure you can get something back with Karmic Guide that then brings Karmic Guide back, which then brings something else. Like, these are the colors that do crazy shenanigans out of the graveyard like that.
Yeah, because of Karmic Guide.
Yeah, Karmic Guide. Anyways, I like this card. It's neat, and I think it's got some good potential.
Yeah, for sure. Value. Next, we've got Labyrinth Raptor. It's a Rakdos card. It's black and red for a Nightmare Dinosaur. It's 2/2 with Menace. Whenever a creature you control with Menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices a creature blocking it. And you can pay black-red. Creatures you control with Menace get +1/+0 until end of turn. So Menace asks your creature to be blocked by 2, but they have to sack one of the 2 right away. So they really, they have to, this one gets blocked easily, but if you have other Menace creatures, it becomes extremely hard to deal with them.
Yeah, true. If you have something that gives everything Menace, for example, many of those. That's
Goblin
really cool.
War Drums.
Yeah, that's true.
That wolf.
There's a zombie that does it to zombies. Yeah.
Sure. How are you gonna block? Yeah, it's tough. They're sort of unblockable.
This guy's a Menace Lord.
Yeah.
Cool. Next we have Quartz Wood Crasher. 2 red, and a green. So 5 total for a 6/6 trample dinosaur beast. It's a rare. Whenever one or more creatures you control with trample deal combat damage to a player, create an XX green dinosaur beast creature token with trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. Oh man, I like this card a lot.
Yeah.
This is so dumb. This is not quite as good, but also sometimes better. That big green insect that copies itself when it hits and it has trample.
Oh, yes.
Kind of like that a little bit, except that obviously this is just the remainder damage. You get an XX of that, but that's very good because this thing is just going to keep making more and more of these tokens.
Yeah.
I love
it's
it.
Fun.
This is
fun.
a fun design, a 6/6, a 5-mana 6/6 trample, ain't nothing, and you're going to be able to get some cool stuff out of this. I love this card.
Yeah. Here's a fun teamer card. It's Song of Creation. 1 green, blue, red enchantment. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards.
What?
Wait, what? At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. Oh, there we go.
That's exactly what I said in my head when I read this the first time.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. What? Oh.
I mean, yeah, so you get to play an additional land, but I just am imagining once you've got, this mid to late game, you play a spell, draw 2 cards. Play one of those, draw 2 more. Play 1 or 2 of those, draw 2 more, play 2 lands, and then discard the rest. It's that's great. Make sure you got some flashback in there. Make sure you got some other stuff in there so discarding isn't so bad. This seems super fun.
Yeah. I'm so used to Teamer being play a bunch of big creatures and they have flash sometimes and they can't be countered or whatever. And now it's what am I doing with Teamer again? What is this? I guess I'm playing Storm or something. What I mean?
I don't know.
This is probably pretty good in a deck that wants to do that. So,
well, and let's also note that Teamer has the colors that let you most easily play off the top of your library. So it's
True.
I don't care if I discard my hand. I got the top of my library is good. So here.
This card has some crazy potential also.
Yeah.
What's it going for right now? What's it starting?
Oh,
at?
is your interest peaked?
It's
$4.
peaked. I'm just wondering if someone has big plans for it in some other format, it's like $20 card or something.
It's $4 right now.
Okay.
This is the time though. Like you kind of want to nab it before someone does have big plans in another format.
And these are the cards that do it. But like, how much is? What was our preview card for Theros? The red one that everyone went wild with in every format.
Fire Escape from the Underworld.
Like that card's in everything, and it's not that much though, right?
No, because I think did they ban it in Legacy?
They banned it. Oh, did they? At any rate, it's still getting played.
Underworld Breach.
That's it. That's the one.
They banned it in Legacy. It was getting expensive because Legacy was starting to dominate.
How much is it?
Now it's $2.
Ah, see, yeah. So whatever. Anyways, I say wait on most of this stuff like we always do. I guess there's like an enchantment cycle for all of these, right?
Yep.
Here we have Titan's Nest. This is the Sultai one. 1 black, green, blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. And then you can exile a card from your graveyard, add colorless mana, spend this mana only to cast a colored spell without X in its mana cost. So delve everything except for X spells and colorless spells. So no Eldrazi delving, no X spell delving. But other than that, delve whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? This is very good. This is too good. I think they've said so many times how broken delve is.
Yeah.
As a mechanic. And yet here they are printing it on an enchantment for us all to have.
Like Golgari has a lot of spells that cost 1 green that end up putting a couple cards in your graveyard while they do other things. So yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, obviously it's powerful. Obviously it's good. I think you're going to want to run this card in a lot of different decks. But I mean, the fact that it doesn't hit X spells and is a bummer. In that it's a necessary bummer, though. Otherwise, I think this card is completely busted.
Yeah, right? I've got 60 cards in my graveyard. X equals 60?
Yeah. I mean, what's wrong with that, really? I mean, there's lots of other, like, combinations of cards that are way worse than that, even.
Would that be so bad?
You still have to do exactly. You know what? You still have to do a lot of work. You know what I mean? You still have to do a lot of work to make that good. But also, there's the possibility of just, like, oh, I've got... Yeah, you don't even need that many. It's like, oh, if I had 8 cards in my graveyard in a Sultai deck on turn, let's say 5, which is very possible. You know, I play this on turn 4, then I Villainous Wealth people for like 8 or 9. Someone for 8 or 9 right away. Like, that's too early for that. That's very good. Anyways, this card's crazy. What else is there to say about it? It's wild. Put it in your Sultai decks. Very good.
So the Jeskai version of that is a 1 blue, red, white Whirlwind of Thought. It's an enchantment, obviously, and it's prowess, basically. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. Great.
Thanks.
Simple.
I will. Yep.
Yeah.
I will, and I will put this in every Jeskai deck from here on out to the end of time, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Nothing much to say about it. It's great.
Yep.
Next is Back for More. 4 black, green. I love the name of the spell. It's an instant. It's an uncommon. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When you do, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So it's a pretty classic reanimator, except that they tacked fight on with it, and that's just a nice bit of value there. I like that it's instant even more so, though, because you can flash block something and then also kill something else and get an ETB effect. Like, there's a lot of value here. It's 6 mana, but there's a lot of value there.
Well, and it's rare to get this effect at instant speed that isn't tied to combat, because now we get to do some real shenanigans where there's a lot of cards that's like, well, when it goes to your graveyard, shuffle it into your library. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a triggered ability, so when the thing goes to my graveyard, before that triggered ability resolves, I can back for more it out, and then I shuffle something into my library, but there's nothing to shuffle.
You're right. This you can get an Eldrazi out of your
yes. This is the way to sneak Eldrazi out of the graveyard.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's why most of these reanimators are not instants.
Fascinating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good call, Sean. Very good. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Ooh, this
what's
is a
next?
fun little dude. This is Parcel Beast. 2 green blue, Elemental Beast, 2/4 with Mutate for just green blue. That's fine, but the most interesting part to me is 1 tap. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. This is Coiling Oracle, but in secret and repeatable. Like, you don't reveal it, you just look at it. And so it's actual ramp if it's on the top of your library, or you're drawing a card every turn, and you have the option to mutate it for just 2. So you can get this rolling. I mean, who among us play a lot of 1-drops? I mean, I guess if it's a green elf, I'm going to play it on 1. But you can... This card has a ton of potential.
Yeah, agreed. Really cool. Skull Prophet is a black and a green human druid. It's a 3/1, and you can tap it to add black or green, and you can also tap it to put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. I think pretty sweet for any Golgari deck that is looking to fill up its graveyard, because it's ramp and it's mill. Perfect.
Yeah, it's ramp until you get rolling, and then it's mill once you're there.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a pinch, it either blocks something with 3 toughness pretty well and trades, or it randomly can get in for 3 if you for some reason need that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a lot packed onto a little 2-mana creature here.
Yeah.
Skull Prophet. It's an uncommon. Love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those on here. Spite Dragon is another one. Blue-red. Fairy Dragon. 1/1. Flying and haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's great. It's going to get pretty big.
It's going to get big. The haste is interesting because it's like the turn you play it is probably not that big because you need to follow it up with a bunch of other stuff. But
Yeah.
it's still interesting. Dire Tactics it seems to be the white-black version of these 2-mana spells. It's an instant. Exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to that creature's toughness. So again, I'm just going to bring up that humans are way more common than you think, especially in Orzhov decks. Honestly, they're mostly humans.
Yeah.
Unless you're running something like Zombies Tribal, and even then. But just an instant speed, exile target creature, great. Exile, love it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
We will never get another Swords to Plowshares, but this is very good.
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
Let's talk about Frondland Felidar, 2 green, white, Cat Beast, 3/5, Vigilance. Creatures you control with Vigilance have 1 tap target creature. Now think about this. Your creatures have Vigilance and a tap ability, which means they can attack and do combat and still be eligible for their tap ability, which you can do at the end of the prior player's end step and just be like, your turn's about to begin, you're going to look around and you're going to be like, whose board looks the most vulnerable? Oh, I've got 3 creatures with Vigilance. You have 3 creatures. I will tap all of your remaining creatures. So on my turn, I have a easy combat, and I can do this all day. I'm good to go.
You've just outlined why I think this is reasonable to talk about in a commander setting, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's actually a pretty powerful thing you just laid out there. Not only is Vigilance the most underrated ability in commander, and arguably one of the best, but tapping creatures is very underrated. I said at the beginning of the show, it's actually can be a very effective form of removal, and especially when you're trying to push damage through, obviously. And I think, yes, okay, we also have General's Enforcer. This card looks really good. White-black for a creature. Oh, maybe this is the white-black one. It's the uncommon creature, human soldier, 2/3. Legendary humans you control have indestructible. So, obviously looking at your commander there. 2 white-black. Exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Those 2 abilities add up to something pretty decent, especially if we're talking about tokens, obviously. But even just exiling target cards at opportune moments can be really big. So to have this on something that potentially protects your commander as well, I think is quite good. And it's a very low cost. It's an uncommon. It's not going to cost you a ton of money. This card's cool.
Next up is a cycle of cards. They are all in the wedges, so they have 1 color on the top right side, but you can they all say if you use the other 2 colors in the wedge to cast them, something awesome happens. They're Mythos cycles. So the Mythos of Brockos, it's 2 green for sorcery, but it's the Sultai one, so if you paid blue and black for the 2 optional colorless part, you're going to search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. That's if you pay the extra. But the main effect either way is return up to 2 permanents from your graveyard to your hand. So if you get to do the Sultai version, you're also going to tutor one. So you're going to return a permanent and you're going to tutor a permanent by way of having it go to the graveyard and then to your hand.
Or like randomly get something like Genesis into your graveyard and leave
That's
it there.
true.
I guess, right? Like,
yeah, you could do that too. If some cards want to be in the graveyard, Anger is not Sultai, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Wonder.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Interesting. So that's pretty cool. The wording on these, a lot of people made fun of how like bizarre it is the first time you read it, and it's true. It's true on, I think, one of the later ones. Anyways, let's get the next one. Mythos of Aluna. 2 blue, and create a token that's a copy of target permanent. Very cool. Now, if you used red and green to cast a spell, instead create a token that's a copy of that permanent, except the token has, when this permanent enters the battlefield, if it's a creature, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So, okay, sure. Like maybe we can also kill something, smaller than it. But otherwise, like, just being able to do this is pretty sweet. I actually don't like this one as much because it's that teamer color identity. Like, you can't just throw this in a blue deck and play it.
Yeah.
Which is where you kind of just
want
want
all
it,
of them,
right? So that's kind of a bummer. But maybe there's a team thing. There's probably teamer decks that are gonna want to play this.
Yeah, the fact that you can copy any permanent,
exactly.
there's some
Permanent's
powerful
nice.
enchantments that are good to copy.
Yeah.
You're almost getting nothing for that extra one because I can clone creatures very easily. I don't need this extra thing.
Yeah, and I think the upside of it being target permanent is that you get to do something like an artifact or an enchantment, whereas then you're not even at all getting any kind of advantage from that red-green part. So that kind of sucks. Yeah,
I mean, if you want it, you want it.
Yeah.
The black, green, white one.
This is the confusing one.
It's Abzan. But it's mainly this is so confusing. It's basically instant speed, destroy target creature, but it's 2 and a black. But if that 2 is green white, so if you pay green white black,
it actually says.
I will. If you play green white black, you get to destroy a non-land permanent instead.
Yeah.
But the way they've worded it is destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature, or if green-white was spent to cast the spell.
Which still makes sense. And I got it when I read it the first few times. But I do understand that people were making fun of it, being like, how did who wrote this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I understand that totally.
If you pay for it the easy way, you get to destroy a creature. If you pay for it the hard way, you get to destroy any permanent at instant speed.
Mythos of Nethroi.
That's pretty good.
2 and a black for an instant, or... Abzan for an instant that does this? Yeah, I think so too.
If I'm in Abzan, I probably have, and it's probably very easy to cast. Commander decks have no trouble assembling weird mana costs.
Yeah, it's exactly. So for an Abzan deck, this is just 3 mana instant destroy permanent, 3 mana instant vindicate. Yep.
The weird thing is it has to be an Abzan because you can't play it
exactly
the color, right? So yeah.
And it's non-land permanent, so it's not actually, okay. Next is Mythos of Snapdax. Snapdax. 2 white for a sorcery that says each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among the non-land permanents they control, then sacrifices the rest. So this is an ability we've seen in white before. However, if red-black was spent to cast a spell, you choose the permanents for each player instead.
Yeah.
So instead of them picking their best stuff and sacrificing the rest, you're going to choose their worst stuff and they sacrifice the rest. So that's powerful.
What was that other card?
Oh, there's a couple. There's the combustible.
Combustible everyone chooses for themselves. There's one where you choose and everyone sacrifices the rest, right?
It's from Magic Origins.
Origins.
It's like a 7 mana white spell, I think. something with something with
It's for sure a sorcery, right? Tragic Arrogance.
That sounds like it.
For each player, you choose from among permanents, artifact, creature, enchantment, planeswalker, and they sacrifice all the others. Yeah, it costs one more, but there's no restriction, and you do the same thing.
It costs one more, so it only costs 5?
It costs 5.
Oh, okay. Well, that's less than I thought.
No color restrictions.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I still think this ability is better than it even kind of looks in Commander. Either way, so.
Yeah.
But obviously you're running this in Mardu and you're getting the full ability of it. So yeah. I think it's not bad.
Last one in the cycle is Mythos of Vadrok, 2 red, but it's the Jeskai one. So if you pay 2 red the easy way, 5 damage as you choose among any number of target creatures and planeswalkers. But if you pay it the Jeskai way, white, blue, red, you get to those permanents can't attack or block, and their activated abilities can't be activated. So you can kill a couple things, or you can make the better part of a team not be able to block or attack for a turn.
Yeah, this feels not really good enough for Commander to me.
I agree.
Anyways, let's move on.
Okay.
Are we done with the Mythos? Yes, we are. So we're moving on to a different cycle now. The Ultimatums are back. Ooh,
yes.
And boy, are they ever back. The first one here, we have Eerie Ultimatum. White, black, green. So that is 7 in total. All colored mana. Sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Any number of permanent cards with different names.
This is big.
This is huge. This is card. This is basically every card in your graveyard except for basic lands. And even then you get one of each of those.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This card's incredible. I mean, I love it.
Yeah. You're going to get ETBs. It's going to be a glorious mess of triggers.
It's super mess. So this is obviously very reminiscent of like what's it called? What's the Liliana card? Return of the I can't remember the name of that card at all. Where it's just get all the creatures back from every graveyard.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Or even another close one is I think it's another Abzan one where it's like you get all legendary permanents back from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, I mean, those abilities are so strong and so good. And Eerie Ultimatum, even though it's a heavy mana cost, like you said, man, if I'm playing an Abzan deck, guess what? I got these colors, like I'm going to have, I got my mana tuned. I'm ready to go. So I think Eerie Ultimatum is an amazing card. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Emergent Ultimatum is the Sultai one. Green's in the middle for 3. So 2 black, 3 green, 2 blue. Sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 monocolored cards with different names. Exile them. An opponent chooses 1. Shuffle that one that they chose into your library, and you get to cast the other 2 without paying their mana cost. Then you exile Emergent Ultimatum. So, in these colors, we've got cards like Expropriate, we've got extra turn spells, we've got black spells that, as you said, Andy, would bring all the creatures from all the graveyards back into play.
Yeah.
And so, which of those don't you want me to have? I'm going to get 2 of them.
Yeah.
Crater Hoof, I get all creatures from the graveyard, all graveyards, or Expropriate. Which one of those don't I get? It's got to be Expropriate, right?
Yeah, right? Obviously, you're not giving you Expropriate, but, you still get 2 other awesome cards.
This is pretty much win the game.
It's funny how still, obviously there's less setup than the Abzan one, but the Abzan one is still so much better. I
don't know, man.
It's not always going to be. I'm not saying that, but
I bet
think
you could engineer 3 cards that are it doesn't matter which 2 you give me, I'm going to win the game.
Yeah, I agree. It's very good. Next, we have Genesis Ultimatum. Green, blue, red. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand. Exile Genesis Ultimatum.
That? How did they go from casting 2 of the most broken spells in the world or putting 1,000,000 permanents in your hand to putting 2 permanents out of 5 into
I know. So I do not understand this. I don't understand how they go from these crazy high ceilings to this.
This one's so fair.
Any number of permanent cards. Okay, sure.
Couple of lands,
And maybe a creature or two. 5 cards? It should be like, look at the top 10 cards and you can put any 5 permanents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even that, I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, I suppose. So
that's pretty good, but we've had other cards that just straight win you the game. So like this doesn't do nearly enough.
It's wild. Now, I don't have the other ones in the notes, but I did want to read both of them. So,
okay, let's do them.
Yeah, this is a letdown. Teamer should be something crazy, and it's just not. Disappointing.
Yeah, the other two are not super crazy either.
I agree. So Inspired Ultimatum is blue, red, white. It's the Jeskai one, obviously. Sorcery. Target player gains 5 life. Inspired Ultimatum deals 5 damage to any target. Then you draw 5 cards.
What are you talking about? Jeskai Ultimatum. How did we go from put your whole graveyard on the battlefield to draw 5 cards and kill a thing?
and you gain 5 life. Like come on, gain 5 life, get out of here. So this is similar to the effect that Expansion Explosion has, right? So Explosion can have you draw cards, but the sky's the limit on that card, man. Like it's X, and 4. So like obviously you get a bit of a bargain here if your target was 5.
Yeah.
In fact, a decent 2 mana bargain. But this is Commander, man. I'm talking about X spells. I'm talking about big mana here. You know what I mean? So Inspired Ultimatum, the fact that it limits us to 5, while there's no setup here, we simply get to draw 5 cards and kill something. Whereas again, like the Abzan one, there's a lot of setup there. You gotta have a nice graveyard if we're gonna even have that do anything really.
Yeah.
But I just think that while the floor is lower on Inspired Ultimatum, the ceiling is also lower. It's a bit of a basement apartment. 5 cards is good. Killing something's good, but it's just not for this mana. I mean, I want more.
It's a decent rate for drawing cards. Getting 5 cards for 7 mana is pretty good, but
it's gonna burn when 3 of them are lands, though. You know what I mean? Same as the Teamer one.
Man, they led on strong.
We also definitely started with the 2 best ones. But you know what? This last one is a nice one to finish it out on too. Actually,
Ruinous Ultimatum. This is the Mardu one. Red, white, black. Sorcery. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. So it's like Cyclonic Rift, but instead of returning everything to their hand, you destroy it.
You destroy it, yeah. And it is a sorcery, at least it's not an instant.
That's true. That's different.
But this is good. So I for some reason I thought we left the Genesis and the Inspired, the Jeskai and the Teamer one. No. This one's good. This one's as good. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. It's crazy. Yeah. This is what you pay for a one-sided board wipe in black anyways. You pay 7 mana for that.
Yeah.
In Garrick's Wake or whatever it is, right? Yeah. That's one of them. The Plague Wind, I think, is another one.
Yeah.
7 mana spells, I believe. If you're playing Mardu, this is probably what you're paying. Like, this is probably the mana you're paying for it anyways. Except it hits all permanents. Oh my god, this card's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Andy, we talked about all the regular cards. We just have a couple Planeswalkers left.
That's it. Okay.
We're going to meet a new one. We're meeting Luca, Coppercoat Outcast. Still don't know what the Coppercoats are, but Luca has been outcast from them. Luca starts with 3 red. Cost 3 red, starts with 5 loyalty. Legendary Planeswalker, Luca. You've got a +1, a -2, and a -7. So, +1, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exiled this way gain. You may cast this card from exile as long as you control a Luca Planeswalker. So they kind of go into like a secret exile zone where you have access to them. That's nice. Doesn't protect himself though, unless you cast them. But then you have to do that next turn. Anyway, -2, exile target creature you control. Then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher CMC. Put that card onto the battlefield, the rest on the bottom in a random order. That's pretty nice.
So you're exiling something and you're getting one that costs one more.
No, it just has to cost
higher.
more.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great. Okay, wow.
So a token could turn into a legit threat.
Wow, yeah, that's good. That seems like it's a new ability they're giving Brett, because there's that card in the commander deck that does that too.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then the ultimate, -7. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent.
You just hit, you just attack and get everything, but without even having to attack. So it's kind of like giving them a free attack where no one blocks. That's sweet. That can win
It's
you
an
games.
interesting ultimatum where it's not like some ultimatums where you automatically win the game. That ultimatum might do nothing.
Yeah.
But it's nice.
I like that -2 ability, I must say.
Yeah.
Like, that might be just worth it, like, to run a 5-mana Planeswalker just to get that once and then maybe get it twice, right? Like, I think that's
For
pretty
sure.
good.
Because I've been playing out a couple of little support creatures, building up my board, and then I drop Luca to maximize my mana on maybe turn 4 or 5, and I'm going to turn my worst thing, maybe a little green mana dork, into a legitimate threat, hopefully.
We're not usually very high on Planeswalkers on this show for Commander, and the fact that we're speaking this favorably about a mono-red Planeswalker is pretty nice. It's nice to see Luca come out and make a splash. All right.
Way to go, Luca.
Who else do we have here? We have Vivian's back. Vivian, Monsters Advocate. 3 green, 3 loyalty Vivian. She has a static ability. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Well, that's a good ability. Straight up.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it revealed. That's the key thing. Like, usually when you see that type of thing, you have to sit with it revealed, but her, you can just look at it. So that's nice. Her +1 is create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Put your choice of a vigilance, reach, or trample counter on it. That's very cool. Reach seems really good to protect her, right?
Yeah.
Vigilance as well. And then her -2 is when you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser CMC, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Oh, wow. She's like a similar ability to Luca. This is another one I really like.
But you get to pick this time.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. She's good.
Yeah.
Like, let me cast my 6-drop, and then I'll just find this other wicked 5-drop. Like, yeah, no problem. Or just like plus her and make a bunch of beasts and just start casting stuff from the top of your library. Either way, man, this is a good thing. Yeah, these are good.
These are good.
Again, we're not usually too high on the Planeswalkers, but here we go.
Let's see if our last one is also good. This is Narset of the Ancient Way. 1 blue, red, white. Jeskai Planeswalker. So you've got a +1, a -2, and a -6, and Narset starts with 4.
She's really kicking. She's really trying to kick that white mana symbol out of her cost. It looks like.
Yeah, she really is.
Get out of here!
Her foot is out of the frame, and it's like almost kicking the white symbol. It's very funny. +1, you gain 2 life. Add blue, red, or white. Spend this mana only to cast a non-creature spell. Okay. Not going to protect yourself in any way.
Oh, you're not going to protect yourself in any way, Narset? Fine.
-2, draw a card. Then you may discard a card. When you discard a non-land card this way, Narset the Ancient Way deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to target creature or planeswalker. Well, that's a way to protect yourself a bit by making sure someone's not around to attack. -6, if you get there, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this emblem deals 2 damage to any target. It's like a lot of kind of mediocre stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of mediocre stuff. It's 3 colors. 4 mana is good though. I don't know. I'm not over, like, to me, I think, I don't know, the ultimate is the best part of this. I mean, -2 kill things. This is how I normally feel about Planeswalkers and Commander.
Yeah.
I don't think this does enough, and I'm sure you can find ways to make it good and all that, but like in general speaking, I don't think I want to run this Planeswalker.
Yeah.
But those first 2 were real good. I'm into it.
I'm into Ikoria.
I'm into Ikoria too. You know, I'm really glad we get to do this, Sean, because before I sat down and did this, I felt like Ikoria was such a mess in my mind. I didn't know, like, colors are all over the place. Like, it's like there's ultimatums, there's these big crazy spells, big crazy
Mutate?
creatures. Mutate is this whole other thing we got to deal with. And these companion creatures, these things are nuts.
Yeah.
We get to sit down here, we get to kind of sort through it all. We get to decide which ones like we're excited about, which ones which ones we think are like underwhelming, overwhelming at times as well. And I think, I'm excited to get down and see what this set can do in some commander decks. I think there's a lot of interesting and like new design. Like, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm also happy we get to sit down and do this. Thanks to everyone for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, shoot us a comment if there's a card that you're excited about for Commander that we didn't talk about. Maybe we didn't see the right angle or something that you're seeing on this thing, which is possible.
I think people are going to maybe mention Drannith Magistrate. It's the 2-mana 1/3 in white that just says opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands.
Yeah,
hey,
it's a pretty good hate card.
That's not our style of card, man. I'm not trying to stop you from playing Magic, but I understand people talking about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff here. Yeah, Sean's right. If you want, leave a comment. Talk about some of the cards you're excited about, with either from Ikoria in general, or maybe even also from the C20 review as well. So, because they're all still mashing up in my mind a little bit. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to go to TCGplayer if you're in the States. They and support them, because they're still sending out cards. They're still doing their thing. They're trying to unionize, actually. You see Bernie Sanders tweeted about them?
Well,
the workers at TCGplayer are trying to unionize. So, hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Support them. Why not? TCGplayer, great place. Use our coupon code and get that'll give us a little cut. That'll help support our show. And if you're in Canada, always check out the Wizard Tower, wizardtower.com, and use our coupon code. I meant affiliate link for TCGplayer. Coupon code is for Wizard Tower. Use our coupon code and you can get a little slice off there, get a true discount. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to our listeners. That is our second set review in as many weeks. And we're excited to start brewing with these cards and getting these decks out to you guys. We will see you next week with a brand new Commander deck. Deck Tech. Back to normal. Peace.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCGplayer affiliate link below.
That helps us out too, and for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.